Short Bus Saturday. It's the Short Bus Saturday. It's the Short Bus Saturday. Short Bus Saturday. It's the Short Bus Saturday. It's the Short Bus Saturday. It's the Short Bus Saturday. Short Bus Saturday.
Yo, check 1 2 1 2. What's good, everybody, man? I'm Gigi. You tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. It's a place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up with no chasers, man. Word up, man. And shout out to all you haters out there, man. I hope y'all passing a good afternoon, man. Shout out to y'all out there, man. Big up to the haters, man. And if you're not coming in, man, make sure you do this, man.
Share the damn video, bitch.
Share the video, man. If you can't, go ahead and give me a like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification button, man, so you can stay abreast of what's going on here on the Green Gorilla channel, man. Real talk, you know what I'm saying? And right now I got 11 likes, man, but I got only got I got 29 likes now. Let's get the likes up, man. I got about 44 viewers, man, at the current moment. I know it'll pick up as we go on, but come on, man, like the video, man. And as I always do about this time, what I would like to do is Give a shout out to all the people who support the Green Gorilla channel, who have supported it. Appreciate the, judiciary, support, man. So shout out to Zango1, Cornelius Bellamy, Sherlin Woe, Salty Balls, Mike Johnston, No Sleep, Inherently Enthusiastic, Till Toya, Jastek, and Brotherly Love, man. Big up to y'all, man. Big up to Divine Love Ridge, Timothy Blewett, G-Star, Heru in the Apocalypse, Ted Gunderson, Outside the Queue, Gerard Shelton, Raiz Moiji, Black Men Being Brutally Honest, Wild Bear 50, and Sun Ra 44. Big up. Big up to Barnolis, BGS Ivmore, FA4L Andre, Mantis on Break, Lock Vegas, Bimrock, Damian H, Passport OG, Dr. Tiasan Johnson, Rasheed Barnes, and Blacksword 404. Big up. Big up to Leon, Artisan MC, Dub Will, Mr. Good Dad, Third Coast X, Roderick Jackson, Michael Ross, 63rd Samurai, Ishmael Samad, The Watcher, and Hostile Adept. Big up. Big up to the Ruthless Heartless Revelator, Kill the Gang, Dr. Thunder, Jason Hales, Charles Finney, Interesting Thought, The Silent Warrior, Naomi Gary, Jay Cleveland Green, The Toxic Masculinist, and Pulpit 28. Big up. Big up Larry R, Seth Son, Afro Troop TV, Show Me, Spain Man, Seventh Coast Dojo, Anthony Davis, I'm Just Jules, Ricky Dawson, Stefan, and True 7360. Big up. Big up Mr. Me Too, Call for President, Gold Professor, AKs and Curtains, H-Town, Roguish the Billmonger, Adrian Thomas, Electrician 480, Binga, and Cutting Up with the Jones. Big up. Big up D. Scott, Path Guy, Pete Rock, Aaron Peters, Vince Lindsay, Quiz the Poet, Black Wizard 80OS, Shadow Observer, Troy Warren, Mrs. KP Bailey, and Alan Wiley. Big up. Big up The Face, Life of Commerce, AI Apostle, Jeffrey Speed, Marvin Battle Jr., Adam, Ignatz Mouse, Dr. Tree 33, 77 Base X, and Brian McMurray. Big up. Big up K-Ron S, Charles Rogers, Rick Ross, Sandra Jean, Charles Gilmore, Greg, Barry Little, Mr. Valentino, Doc LaRock, Mark Swift, Odd Collard, Donald Watts, and Coach Hotep. Big up. Big up Mr. Blue Collar, TD Hip Hop Media, Drew Main, Mr. Heat, Sir Anthony, MLR, Universal 178, Aaron Smith, DH, A-Double, Kalanja Kala, and W. Pierre 1. And I can't forget the brothers in the ethereal plane, Forrest Windu, David Carroll, and Kevin Samuels. Big up to all of them brethren, man. And I can't leave out the people on the Patreon side. Frank Black, Robert Wicks, Shine Language, Chris Flowers, Christopher Burton, Daxby the Tetrahedron, J Live, Keith Bass Jr., Nick, Albert C., Dr. Ben Vincent, Waffle Weave, Darnell Smith, Excalibur, Preserve Prisoner, Taz, Dragon 59, J Bailey, Momal, and Asangwa. Big up to all of y'all, man. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. And if you want to support the Green Gorilla channel on an ongoing basis, here's how you do it. I'll be back with the show, man. What's good, everybody? I'm the G with a PhD, and you're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel, the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, no chaser. Today, I want to introduce you to my new membership program that consists of 5 levels where you can invest in the Green Gorilla channel on a monthly basis and receive level-specific perks. Memberships are special because they improve the quality of the content of the channel and will help me to be able to keep the channel going. Now, to participate in the Green Gorilla channel membership program, all you have to do is hit the join button, which is located right next to the subscribe button on my channel page. Now, for all of my subscribers who decide not to participate in my membership program, nothing will change. The content will keep coming the way it always has. Thanks for watching, and be careful out here, people. Bless. All right, man, I'm back. I'm Gigi. You tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. It's the place where black men can express themselves freely without obstructions and hindrances. So having said that, man, I do want to give a shout out to the Poor Man's Passport guy. Big up to him. Shout out to you, sir. I know you're watching there from the Philippines. It's pretty late. Catch the replay, my brother. Holla at you. Shout out to Ron Matthews. Shout out, bro. Shout out to Salty Balls with the early donation, man, which deserves a round of fanfare. Thank you so much, sir. And he says, thine enemies gathered the flocks to dox the great Doc. Green Gorilla's that ninja, you can't quiet his vox with sinister plots. He verbally reloaded bullets off the tongue and we will keep firing off shots, keeping his space locked down like Fort Knox. Big salute, big up, booyakah, booyakah. Thank you, man, appreciate that, man, real talk. Shout out Excalibur, I see you. Chukwe, shout out to you, man. Jerome, what's cracking with you? Shout out to you. Giagami, shout out to you. Spain Man, shout out. Joe's, shout out. The Sower of Seeds, shout out. And the Toxic Masculine, shout out, man. So there's other people. Shout out to Jimmy Howard, Chef Mike's Roundtable, BJ the Lawyer. Big up to all of y'all, man. So, of course, you know, I don't do this short bus thing by myself. I do it with a partner in crime. His name is Marcus Aurelius. What's cracking? He's also known as Keep It 100. What's going on, bro?
What's cracking is the mags, nigga. You know what I'm saying? Gotta get that protein. But you know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Shout out to everybody here. You know, I've been loading a lot of content onto the Patreon side. So get ready. My shit will not be for children. I just want to let y'all know.
Okay, hey. And I also brought another guest along. You know him, man. He's been in the Manosphere way longer than I have. His name is Mumia Obsidian Ali. What's cracking with you, man? What's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, Green Gorilla?
What's cracking with you, man?
Nice to be here, man. We finally meet. I've been
Hey,
hearing
man.
so much about you, man. Big fan.
Hey, man, a fan of your work as well. So I don't know if you are aware of Marcus Aurelius, man. You two should probably introduce yourselves.
Yeah, I know Mark. What's going on, man?
What's going on, man?
How you feeling?
What's happening?
Yeah, we largely know each other through Facebook, but yeah, I've definitely seen him around, seen him over on Bernard's channel and everything. Yeah, he be tearing it up, man.
So it's great for us to, you know, how good it is for brethren to be able to dwell together in unity, man. It's like the ointment upon the head that ran down the beard, even Aaron's beard. I ain't gonna start getting scriptural and spiritual or nothing like that, but you know, good to see you here, man. Great to have you here, man. And I don't know how you know how the short bus thing works. All we do is we go over clips, we look at them. I mean, you know, it's par for the course when it comes to YouTube. It's a reaction Saturday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So let's get right to this shit. I'm gonna make myself bigger, not because I believe that I'm bigger than anybody else, because I don't. Okay, I just make myself bigger in order to make the screen more visible as we, you know, go through the shorts. So having said that, I'm gonna make myself a little bit bigger here, and we're gonna get right to this shit. Let's do it.
Let's go.
Lizzo f***ed up the fat bitch. I mean, big girls used to be the backbone of the community. They could always fall back on a big bitch. She was down on it. Look, you got robbed, lost your job, get yourself a fat bitch. So you got back on your feet. Get your dick sucked, a warm home cooked meal, get your back rubbed. Lizzo done f***ed that up. Nowadays, graduate high school, go straight to fat bitch. Haven't even failed yet in life. Got these big hoes out here acting like normal, regular people. Now fat bitches out here putting out and shit, taking their key back. Give me my key back. Like, what you say, big bitch? I jump off a bridge before I let a fat hoe take a key back.
Yeah, what you think about that, man? Like, but before I do that, man, shout out to Anubis out there, man, for that kind and generous donation. He deserves, for the generosity that he's displayed, a round of fanfare. Thank you, Anubis. I appreciate that. My appreciation goes out to you, sir. Thank you so much.
Every time I hear them horns, this shit sounds like, I don't know, like the Knights of the Round Table or some shit. But
Some like
You
yeah,
know-
it sound like some fucking King Arthur type shit.
Yeah.
right, big girls' street value has been outrageously inflated as of late. So yeah, outrageously inflated. You know, I don't know. You got girls out, they coming out here, wearing shit that Rihanna would wear, and you got girls saying why she can't wear it. Why if Rihanna can wear it, why she can't wear it? What? Are you serious? Are you serious? Y'all don't have the same energy for the dudes. You know what I'm saying?
The body positivity. I mean, recently you did a video about Lizzo, so I thought that this would kind of fit up your alley. I thought you would have a lot to say about this here.
Yeah, I did a live show on Lizzo too, kind of weird her ass out. I think that I think that the way to solve these things is through market forces. Men who have more money tend to be more discriminating, and no amount. What's fascinating, and this kind of dovetails to the reason why I'm here, Green Gorilla, is the Black Feminist Project has really been about attempting to put a thumb on the scale and change the parameters of what the men who matter think is desirable. And all we have to do is just ask a simple question: has it worked? I mean, has what Lizzo, since she's the woman of the hour here, has her body positivity, anti-fat shaming program work? Has she gotten Captain America out of it? Has she gotten a highly desirable man out of it? Has any of the women who signed on to that program, have they gotten highly desirable men out of it? Has it worked?
No, it
Absolutely
hasn't
not.
worked. And this,
No.
this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have a conversation with you. And I think that maybe perhaps I'll come on your platform at some other time to do this. But like, this is all about identity politics. It's about being recognized. It's about being perceived as valuable, no matter who you are, no matter what your appearance is, no matter what your race is, your ethnicity is, your sex is, your gender is, your sexual preferences are. So it's an offshoot of identity politics and a particular variant of it that basically says, recognize me, honor me, acknowledge me. And I get it, okay? Everybody's valuable insofar as they are a human being, okay? There's a certain level of respect that should be afforded to everyone. But just because I respect you don't mean I have to fuck you. You feel me?
That's correct. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, you feel me? Like, I have to acknowledge your rights and your humanity. It doesn't mean that I gotta wife you, motherfucker. You feel me?
Oh yeah, you're right. And the thing about it, the insidiousness of the identitarian left, the insidiousness of it is this: that it's really for women.
Right.
That's really what now they don't just flat out frontally say that. It's always inferred or implied. But it's really about women. And I would be okay with that if they just come out and said that. But I think the reason why they don't do that is because the men will just say, okay, so this woman over here matters more than this one. I mean, there's no way to get around the fact that some people are more important than others. Now, though there are particular contexts and things like that. But mating is not, and I talk about this in my book, Green Gorilla, mating is not an affirmative action program.
No, it's not.
It's not. There is no congressional law you can get to do that. And the thing about it is that the very same women that go back to Lizzo, the very same women who want to be chosen have no qualms themselves being very discriminating about who they choose.
Mhm.
So the men understand you have to provide value. It's not enough that you exist and that you have intrinsic, worth, and that you have a soul and that you have a spirit. Bunk that. You have to provide value in the mating market, something the ladies want. The problem is, and this is particularly acute in contemporary Black American society, Black women honestly do not believe that other than just showing up with what they're sitting on, no matter how much has been used and no matter how much has come out of it in the form of little carbon copies of themselves, that they have intrinsic value. And again,
Right.
my question then becomes, okay, if that is the value proposition, how's that working out for you?
Right. Right. For me, it always comes back to that. Is your way working? Is your way working? And if it's not working, then you're gonna have to try a different approach. If you're not getting a result, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I mean, women, they approach things, I guess if they make enough noise, I want to say they approach things like children. If they make enough noise, they'll get their way. And part of it is because in many other situations, that's worked for them. They've made enough noise that they've gotten their way. But when it comes to this dating thing, like it's like you said, the other things that they made noise about, those are things that you can write laws for. This you can't.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, when it comes to dating and mating, it's not like jobs. It's not like housing. It's not like admission into professional schools. I mean, you can't distribute partners, okay? And you can't use governments to determine like what's beautiful or what's not beautiful, or what's going to be perceived as sexually desirable or not. There's some things that the government can handle, and there's certain things that it can't, okay? And I don't think that the government, or I don't think that the academy, or I don't think politics is sufficient to, make something be in relation to the sexual marketplace. It just, it won't work. It is what it is, However, in jest, I mean, the guy's just ultimately saying, look, now you got fat women feeling brand new and shit. They acting like they, the shit now because, of fat studies and recognition scholarship and and this is an offshoot of feminism, the whole body positivity movement. And look, I want people to think positively about themselves, to have a good self-concept or a self-image, but at the same time, we have to be cognizant that there are some lifestyles that are unhealthy, and kind of being celebratory of being unhealthy to me is vicious. If you ask me, I'm just keeping it a buck, bro. It's vicious, man. I think it's sadistic. Okay, it's psychopathic. To tell a group of people who are unhealthy that they need to celebrate their unhealthiness. Now I get that the imagery of like a thin rail white woman, a white woman or something like that may not be the best image of or aesthetic symbol to put up as the example for what everybody or all women should strive to be. But I mean, come on, man, like being morbidly obese, man, is not the move, man. That's just my opinion. You feel me?
No, the thin white woman is the opposite extreme, if you ask me. But even if that's what we're saying, right? What you're saying, the part that most people leave out is nobody celebrates the overweight guy.
Oh, hell
right.
No.
So again, like O said already, this is largely for women. So even if you want to celebrate bad lifestyles, you're not doing it for both genders. You're only doing it for women, and it's really black women, because I don't see white culture pushing this on white men like they're pushing it on us in black culture.
Well, to be fair, Mark, there's a reason for that, and I have to aim this at the brothers. It's because white men are brutal with white women. I mean, just flat out brutal with them about this issue. I mean, they make it very clear they're not. I mean, black men have we kind of allow this. So
right.
We got to lower the boom, and it is. And I know this is a very sensitive topic for a lot of black men. The whole money thing, the whole status thing. Yes, there's a history of exclusion, discrimination, Tulsa, Oklahoma, etc., locking us out of all of that. But if we're ever going to get a handle on this, black men are going to have to figure out a way, with all of that being said, to get to the fucking bag, because that is the ultimate equalizer. When you're a brother that's got it going on like that, you can literally listen. I know brothers that are very, very well off, do well for themselves, Lizzo has zero chance of having access to them. I'm just using her as an example. Lizzo has zero chance of having access to those guys. They don't socialize. They don't, to the extent that they work together, they keep that, at arm's length. They don't socialize. You certainly don't see ladies like that on their arm. That's what money can do for you. Money can literally put you in a gated community of sorts. And many more brothers, yeah. I mean, when it comes to women, it can put you in a gated community. It does.
No, I was laughing at this right here, man. Tom Robbins says white men have T-shirts to say "no fat chicks."
Oh yeah, mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
And
right.
white men, Tim Robbins, Tim Allen, the everyman of white America has been able to kind of ride the coattails of their, for lack of a better way of putting it, high value white men in this regard. We're not going to be able to do that as easily. I think it's going to be a bit of a tougher slog. But the bottom line is that we black men sell ourselves short in terms of our own power and influence. We really do. We're a lot more powerful than we think. And if you really just have yourself together, you can really impose. I'll put it this way: you may not be able to impose yourself on the ladies, but you can impose yourself on your environment.
For sure.
I agree with what you're saying. I think that what black men will or won't accept is separate from what they're trying to push on us, right? So whereas you might, and I agree with you definitely to a degree that, black culture and black men they give the big women an easier time than white men. And I tell black women this all the time with their divestment dreams. I'm like, there's no way you think that the stuff that we won't allow is going to be allowed outside. Is to a greater degree not allowed. I mean, I don't come across too many black women who are interested in black men with eating disorders like bulimia and suffering with anorexia and shit like that, right? But what I'm saying is, with them pushing this thing on us now, I absolutely agree with you that men who are at higher levels of society are not fucking with these women. But what I'm saying is the agenda to make us accept it, even those among us that ain't with it, right? They can play that game with us more so than they can play it with white men, because white men ain't having it. Do you understand where I'm coming from? Like,
I do.
But let's just be frank about this, man.
Even the guys in the white culture that are not at the top of white culture ain't really having it. I mean, Al Bundy was roasting fat bitches all day and married with children for years, right? So, I'm just saying, like, with us, it's more about black women themselves thinking that we own the culture, we own what you accept or reject, and we own what you think, and we gonna make you like fat bitches as opposed to them white guys over there because you ain't them, so you got to deal with this shit.
But let it be known, man, that like about 60% of black women are according to BMI indexes, 60% of them are considered to be overweight.
Right. In the hot,
but our culture, we kind of support and celebrate thickness, big bonedness, and oftentimes to the detriment of the health of the people who are supposedly our better halves. But we can go into this all day long, man. We can have remember we got time constraints. Because, you can take like a 5-minute video or shorts and it'll be like some sort of assessment that lasts 3 or 4 hours. So having said that, shout out to Salty Balls again. He says, imposition, 8-1, imposition, rotundly imposition of a value proposition, self-admission, they insert themselves not by our volition. So that's what the words, the wordsmith, man, Salty Balls, man. And a shout out to Leon. He says, oh shit, how dare Obsidian attempt to bring back the she-heathen back to the table. Screw it, I'll destroy myself. Joking, he says, showing love, man, showing love. So also Salty Balls again says, Don Brethren, let's try to get at least one Lizzo of coinage from thine treasure chest or thine trivium of sages beyond the columns, because it's 3 of us. So shout out to Salty Balls again.
Big boned.
Big Bone. You didn't who's the one cat who made the song called Arlene? What's that nigga name, man?
I forget that.
Great neo soul singer, man. I'm cool if you're cool.
Oh, you mean Anthony Hamilton?
Yeah. He made a song called Sister Big Bones. You remember that?
Nah.
No, I didn't. I have to look that up.
Man, look that shit up. Sister Big Bones. Okay? But having said all that, let's I'm gonna make myself a little bit bigger here again, and then we're gonna go to the next portion of this video.
I don't care if you did 1,000 digs, baby, you for me. You tried the risk, now come be with the best. You had to go through all that so I could have you. I don't judge you. I don't care what you done did. If I want you, I want you.
So did you catch that?
What is he speaking on? Body counts?
Yeah. He said you can have 1,000 dicks. When we go back?
Oh, boy. Really?
When we go back?
Is that what he's saying? Huh? Wow. That's
Okay,
deep.
so let's look at it one more time. Clear your ears.
I don't care if you did 1,000 digs, baby, you for me. You tried the risk, now come be with the best. You had to go through all that so I could have you. I don't judge you. I don't care what you done did. If I want you, I want you.
Well, he said want. It sounds like a sexual advance as opposed to like, you know. I mean, he ain't say a bunch of shit, but that's what I take from it. Like, if 1,000 dudes hit it before me, I'll hit it. You know, I don't care how many dudes hit it before me, but he ain't making no claims as to, yo, I want to be your dude. But I mean, but some dudes will wife the chick from the gangbang. I've seen both things happen, but yeah.
I mean, hey, Mamiya, man, you got you got your mouth closed up, man. What's cracking?
I can't do it.
Cat got his tongue, boy.
I'm
That boy got
sitting
goat
at a
mouth.
loss for words. What?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, hey, look, if that's what he likes it, I love it. But
No,
you know what I mean? That I don't care how many man you didn't have. Oh, yeah, I do care. I do not want to be with a woman who, you know, reminds me of 30th Street Station. No. You got trains just going in and out. Just trains going in and out. No, I don't want
My
that.
man said, I don't care if you had 1,000 dicks.
I do care.
Yeah, I care too, man. Come on, man. You don't want your, but it's one thing for the jump off, okay? Like,
right, that's what I'm
it's
saying.
one thing
right.
for you to be fucking with the set out. You know what I'm saying? The set out is the set out. You know what I'm saying? You can't turn her into a housewife. She's a consort. She's you know, the pass around. She the jump off or whatever the case may be, but she's not wifey. You know what I'm saying? You can't have wifey. Wifey can't be out there, you know, doing tricks, bro. Cannot be. That's just my opinion. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But
I said, no, sorry. You saying
go
something?
ahead. Go ahead.
I said this to a friend of mine yesterday, female friend of mine. You know, she watches a lot of videos. She's been in some of them. If you rent in a car, you don't care about the mileage. But if you're buying a car, you do, and you should. And what chicks is trying to do now is they trying to tell you the odometer don't mean shit in a car purchase, right? The mileage. Right. If I'm going to own this motherfucker, right? If I'm going to own it, if I'm going to invest in it and keep making payments on it, then I care about the mileage. If I'm just going to drive this shit, if this shit is a zip car or if it's a ride share or some shit like that, a hire car or Toro car, I don't give a fuck what them numbers say, right? But again, for anybody that's looking to purchase a vehicle, look at the motherfucking odometer. You want to see the Carfax. You want to see all of that shit. And they try to tell, imagine you going to a dealership. Yeah, how many miles on it? It don't matter. Salvage title? No, it don't matter. Why you worry about salvage title and odometer? It don't matter. Man, you walk out of that shit quicker than you came there.
But you know what it is? I'm telling you, this is another modal expression of the politics of recognition or identity politics being put out there, especially as it pertains to women's sexuality. So it's always been said, you know, like that, you know, men can sow their oats, men can go out here and be whorish, but not suffer the same kind of stigmatization that women do. And in order to kind of like make things equitable, we have to kind of minimize, the norm of women being perceived as sluttish for having multiple sexual partners. So, I mean, but at the end of the day, my whole viewpoint on it is, look, man, you know what they say about keys and locks, right?
I've heard
The master
that
lock, and hey, look, they say a master key can open up many locks, right? But only a shitty lock can be opened up by any old type of key.
That's right.
Right. Yeah.
So it is.
Nice analogy. I've heard it over the years. What I
And
like to
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, what I like to say, and I'll make it quick. What I like to say is it's not equal, right? The reason what the double standard exists, outside of analogies and things like that, is men have to do a great deal more than women for a sexual encounter, on average. You understand what I'm saying? Like for a woman, I mean, it's nothing. Like, dudes, they could take dick all day if they wanted to. It's not an accomplishment. The reason why we praise men for getting a lot of women is because they have to do a great deal more or accomplish a great deal more for the same sexual encounter. You understand what I'm saying? Women choose.
Yeah.
Men have to work to be chosen. It's not equal.
Right.
Period.
Yeah. Well, but the other thing too, though, I think that we in the Black community have so heavily focused on the sexual end of mating that we've kind of, and when it comes to men, we've kind of hamstring ourselves. Long-term mating is men's domain. It's not short. It's men's domain. So the real question here is what do the ladies offer non-sexually long-term?
Right.
That's the real question. What's the value proposition? You want a long-term mate, you want a marriage, you want a long-term relationship. Okay, what's the value proposition other than sex? What is it? Ask that question to a lot of ladies. You watch them kind of, squirm and get speechless and want to attack you and so on and so forth.
Me. Just
Okay.
me.
Right. I'm like, okay, what about you?
I'm warm, I'm kind and fuzzy. And I got a pussy.
Exactly. So we're going back to the sex again. It's okay. So if sex is the issue, the average age of a Black woman today is around 36, if I remember correct, according to Black demographics. So, okay. And the average Black woman has 2 kids. The average Black woman has a first child between 20 and 24. The average Black woman has children out of wedlock. So, okay, if the argument, the value proposition is what you sitting on, then do we prorate it given all those averages?
Oh, can't prorate the pussy.
but also it goes back to what we were just talking about. If your entire value is the pussy, then body count does matter.
Exactly. Body count matters. What you sitting on has produced in terms of little carbon copies of yourself matters. Who helped you make those carbon copies matter, and under what circumstances those carbon copies came into play. All of that matters if it's going to be heavily weighted on what you sitting on. Now, if it's going to be weighted on other things outside of that, okay, let's look at a resume. Let's look at a life resume. Let's look at what kind of skills and competencies you bring to the table that makes a long-term mateship advantageous to me.
The funny thing I find is when men ask all these questions, they get all this opposition. But if shit go left, they tell you should have vetted. You should have chose better and all of this shit. But you can't. It's like you get mangled for doing it either way. You can't win. You can't win for losing. If you're vetting, that's a problem. Right? Again, and Gigi in the chat to tell you, oh, I'm not a relationship guy, so I don't give a fuck for none of that shit. Like I'm a ride sharer, right? But when it comes, but I don't judge the guys who want to own, the guys who want to go long term. I don't judge them for wanting to be relationship guys or to have that sort of thing. And so I understand that their needs are different from mine. And when it comes to those guys, if they are looking into, the whole facts, let's call it that, if you want to see the whole facts, it's like, why you want to see the whole facts? But then 10 years down the line, if you get caught up in the situation, then you should have had some sort of superhuman Marvel universe sort of vetting power to see this coming, and they blame you anyway. Well, you should have did the thing that we would have roasted you for doing because it wasn't your business. It's like, how the fuck do you win? Either way, you fucked up.
Yeah, my view on it is, man, motherfuckers, hey, man, I can't be Charles Xavier X and shit trying to figure out, like, what a bitch is and, you know, who she is and, like, what she gonna do. And then I can't prognosticate the future, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not Doctor Strange. I can't fucking figure out what the fuck is about to go on in all possible universes and shit like that, man. I just, you know, can't predict the future, and you're not responsible for the moral depravity or the bad choices of somebody else. I mean, you do get to vet people, but I mean, that only works up to a certain point because people do change. They can, like, just at the drop of a dime change too. So, you know, there's that to take into consideration. But having said all that, man, we're going to move on to the next one of these clips here, man. But before we do that, man, I want to shout out LaKenzie Kendall for the Cash App, man, and Corbett Goodwin. Shout out to you for the Cash App, and Salty Balls again with another super chat. He says, and 1,000 swordsmen in concert proceeded to enter the palace, even with the force of 10,000 battering rams, and although the walls are mangled, did not conquer her castle. And I think that's innuendo, of course, for what we think it is. So having said all that, let us proceed to the next one of these shorts here, man.
He took me in, he put me into nursing school, he got my hair, nails, everything done. So he up here on this level, I'm down here on this level. You get where I'm going? He got me up here with him because he was making good money. But then he ended up losing his job 2 years ago. Lost his job, and now he broke. What did I do? Broke up with him and got on because I'm not finna take care of no grown man. I'm not doing that.
These hoes ain't shit, dog.
Corey's one of my favorite.
Yeah, he's funny as hell.
I know she does skits, so I know that, you know, she's talking shit, but that doesn't take away from, you know, this is some real shit. A lot of women think that way, but hey, man, what was it? The scorpion and the frog, bro. The scorpion and the frog. That's all I got to say.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
go ahead. No, you go ahead, Mamiya.
No, I was gonna say skit or notwithstanding, just taking it at face value, there is empirical evidence to back up what the lady is saying. David Buss, long time fixture in evolutionary psychology, talks about this in his book, The Evolution of Desire, that women will break up with you if you lose your job or lose your money or something like that. Just goes to show, man, you know, men are measured by their value, not by, you know, you just showing up. You're a human doing, not a human being. I accept that. But in accepting that, here's the deal. In accepting that, what's the value proposition? You want me to provide, protect, produce for you. What's the value proposition? See, I don't see any value proposition in that video that the lady said. The brother's doing all this for her, but what did he get out of it? Prior to him losing his job 2 years and he loses that. Okay, fine, we get that. But what was he getting in return for him doing all of these things for her? What was he getting in return? That's not mentioned.
Well, we already know what it is. You get the cooperation, you get a little bit of pussy here and there. I mean, given, you know, that you're actually doing what she considers to be manly. But at the end of the day, man, you know, like, hey, unfortunate things can happen to good people. And when they do, you know, the person who you're supposed to be with, supposed to be your partner or your mate or your wife or whatever the case may be, your girlfriend, however you want to, term, the union between a man and a woman. I mean, she's supposed to be by your side. You know, y'all supposed to work through issues together. That's why, you know, initially the whole concept of marriage was for better or for worse, for sickness and health, till death do us part. Right. But like there's a new set of value systems being thrown into the equation today. And it's just like, you know, hey, man, it's all about what the fuck is to my advantage. It's become a transactional experience, okay? And not to say that there, you know, can't be any transactional aspect in it to a certain extent, especially, you know, in the initiation stages, you know, where you're kind of feeling each other out. But I am, you know, kind of like agnostic related to this particular subject. I mean, the two are supposed to become one. But how can the two become one if all they're ever doing is, seeking to find how much they could, get over on the other. That's not like working with a team member. I mean, that might work in some instances with some people. I mean, it might work in a business relationship, but it's kind of difficult to make that kind of approach work when it comes to friendships. Okay. But it all depends on what kind of.
These ladies are your friends.
True indeed. I'm just keeping it. Yeah, I understand. Hey, I get it. Trust me. I've been through the ringer with a few women, and so it starts off friendly, and they talk all this friendship shit, but then at the end of the day, it just becomes a matter of like, what can I get out of it? And I think that's to the detriment of all relationships, though. But
I don't know, Green Gorilla, because I think that and this that we may or may not agree on this, but this is where I'm at with it. I think that Black women have, and I talk about this over my channel, Black love has been transactional for a good long minute. This is not nothing new. It's just that Black men have not accepted it. If you take Black American music and you track back for the better part of 40 years, to the 80s, ain't nothing going on but the rent. Bills, bills, bills. I don't want to be with no scrubs. And you better call Tyrone. And what would you listen? What were we hearing from Black men? Now, this is all Black women saying this. What were Black men talking about? I'll wash your clothes. I'll pay your rent. I'll do all the things your man won't do. I want her. I'm gonna, baby, 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 and all this stuff. Black men haven't accepted, in my opinion, Black men haven't accepted that we are in the 21st, and this is latter 20th century. So this is the build up to where we are right now with city girl culture getting flued out and so forth. I think Black men haven't accepted that we're in a new period. Black women as a group, and obviously there are notable exceptions. I'm not speaking about every last Black woman, but generally have they're in a different dispensation with regard to mating. And Black men are in sore need of a firmware update in how in terms we think. We need to tamp down on our inherent romantic impulse. We need to get rid of the blue pill thinking and simp chip in our head, and be much more ruthlessly pragmatic.
Right.
That's how I operate. My thinking is this: if you cannot do anything for me, you have no reason to exist.
So I want to say this to you, O. I have a phrase that I throw around this space. The provider male is dead. Right. And what that means is, Black men have this old school way of thinking that, if I do all of these things, this is the response that I'm supposed to get from this woman. Right. What I was going to say earlier is, the idea of these relationships, what these relationships are supposed to be. It's supposed to be a partnership and we're together and we become one, like what you were saying earlier, G. I think that, with us, like that idea is in conflict with reality and how things actually play out in reality. Right. And I think that, it's like O said, a lot of us are not accepting what it is, the reality of it, because we learn these ideas and we're stuck to these ideas, and we attach our manhood and our masculinity to what we can provide for these women, because that's what we've been raised. To be honest, I look at it as a religion at this point. Is our culture that as a man, you're not a man unless you're doing this, right? So these women over there, like he said, their whole shit has changed up because they have in many of their situations replaced that thing that you would be doing for them, right? So they have their houses, their cars, their this, that, all the things. They're not starving. They got roofs over their heads. They drive nice cars. All of that nice shit, right? The stuff that you would be giving them as a quote unquote masculine man, right? They still like niggas with money, but they don't need the basics. They want you to get them the Gucci, the Fendi, the Prada, take them out to nice shit like that. They don't want provision, right? They want luxury. They want to be spoiled. They want to be gifted. Like you said, flown out and this type of thing, right? That's not basic needs. That's not essentials as it once was. And yeah, the Black relationship has always been transactional. Even if you look back in the days that we kind of like celebrate, you know, our marriage race was this and that. Where would black women go if they weren't with us in that time period? They were stuck with us. And when you give people what they need, that's when they show you who they really are. I don't need a man, quote unquote. I get my own bag. So the purpose was the bag the whole time, right? So yeah, it goes back to this, the provider male is dead thing, where I feel like these women, their rules have changed. And the reason why you got such high body counts is, like I told old girl yesterday, women now can fuck the men they like as opposed to men they need.
I have no problem with any of that. My thinking is this.
Right.
My thinking is this. If a lady wants a lifestyle, and that's what you're talking about, that's fine. Again, what's the value proposition?
Right.
What is it? I mean, you want, okay. And the key, I think, for a lot of brothers that kind of catches them with that, and we have to be honest about that, is they can't provide it. See, I have no problem with it. I put myself in the position to be able to provide it. Okay. So what's the value proposition? You want this, that's fine. What do I get in return? If the argument is sex, well, as you pointed out, Mark, you already banging guys that you already like for little or nothing. They ain't got to give you a lifestyle. So,
Right.
so again, what's the non-sexual value proposition? What skills and competencies do I get in return for sitting you down in relative luxury? Since we agree, this is not a subsistence situation. What's the value proposition? And I just let her just stay there and just.
So look, man. Hey, Felicia, man. Look, man. Look, you got to stop yelling in my chat, man. Somebody put her on timeout, man. You gotta put her on timeout. We gotta punish you real quick. You know what I'm saying? Put her in timeout.
Well, I would like to know about Felicia exactly what is it that we have to accept accountability for? I'm not the type of brother that is indiscriminate with my nether regions. I never have been. So what am I taking accountability for? What about high count? How about high body count men? My response to that, Felicia, is what about them? You lovely ladies chose them. You chose it's a question you and the lovely ladies need to answer, not me.
Right.
You chose them. 80% of black women choose to, because I have to be careful because I'm a guest in another gentleman's house. Choose to have
relations. Bro, this is a place where black men can express themselves freely. So go ahead.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, in that case, weapons free. You lovely ladies, 80% of you or better choose to suck, fuck, and reproduce with 20% or less of the men. So if those men have a high body count, whose fault is that? It looks like to me it's your ladies' fault. Y'all can do something about that. Spread around the yams to the other 80% of guys, then so many guys wouldn't have such high body counts. That's the solution.
And high fertility. Don't leave that out.
Yeah. Spread the yams around.
The one thing I don't like is for motherfuckers to come in my chat and then to start yelling and then trying to dictate what we can and what we can't talk about and what we're supposed to be responsible for or accountable for. And, you know, without even like explaining what women have to be accountable for as well. Like, I mean, like at the end of the day, man, look, we have a right to speak our views and opinions about a whole host or a consortium of issues. Coming in our fucking spaces and telling us that, you know, we need to stop talking about women. You've been talking about us for fucking decades in the halls of the academy. You've been talking about us in movies and books and shit like this. So here's the counter narrative. You don't fucking like it, go visit somebody else's fucking channel. Just that simple, man.
Right,
I'm not trying to be ignorant by saying that. I'm not trying to be, you know, abusive or anything. But come on, man, you don't get to fucking dictate what we can and what we can't talk about and what we ought to acknowledge as responsible or accountability. And, you know, you come in yelling and acting like you run the place. No, you don't run shit here, okay, at the end of the day. So having said that, man, let's move on to the next short, man. We only threw 2 of these motherfuckers.
Let me explain something to you about women, okay? If you like me and I don't like you, but I like that you like me, I'm going to keep playing with you. Now, if I like you and you don't like me, I'm going to like you so much more. But if I like you and you like me, eventually I'm going to stop liking you. It's simple.
You ain't got to use a long time to discuss this, but like, what do you think?
That's how she's on point. That's how they think. I've been telling people this shit since high school. Since high school, I figured that out in high school. I swear to God, bro, it is wild, but that's how they think. It's on point. It's on point. I don't know if she was saying it to be funny, or she was letting the cat out the bag, or I don't know what her angle was saying that, but she ain't right. I mean, she ain't wrong. She ain't wrong at all.
The question is, my response is going to be a broken record, Green Gorilla. What is the value proposition?
Hey, to me, there's not a lot of value in that, though. I mean, I want you to think about this, man. Look, it might be true, but put it this way. If I don't like you and you like me, I'm going to play with you, okay? I'm going to use you and manipulate you. If I like you and you don't like me, I'm going to like you even more. Your object of desire, okay? You can call it like, the art of seduction, whatever the fuck you want to call it, okay? Mm-hmm. Third step, if I like you and you like me, eventually it's going to be work for a minute, but I'm not going to like you after a certain period of time, and then I'm going to end up playing with you. That's what the shit sound like to me.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I'm not one of these type of guys, and there are brothers in the black community, believe this. I'm not one of these type of brothers that believes I have to be liked. Where does it say in the large sweep of humanity in terms of human mating that it says that the woman has to like you? Don't you know that throughout human history, the proverbial man dragging a woman by her hair, caveman carrying a club. Don't you know that there are men who just go and kidnap a woman and make her a wife, man? They just go and abduct her ass and make her a wife. So what I'm saying here is, where does it say that she's got to like me? And where does it say that I have to care that she likes me? Again, what's the value proposition? You look like a healthy human fertile female of childbearing age. Bend over. That's the value proposition.
Hey, it is what it is. But let's not get. I don't want to get stuck on that one because that to me is kind of trite. It's the entry point into the female mind, if you ask me. Which, by the way, I think is demonstrative of how chaotic and how precarious your life can be, if you depend on, a woman being dependable. So having said that, man, let's move on to the next.
Wait, before you move on, let me just tell the chat, for those who missed that last video, when you get the replay, go back to that, listen to what she said, and move accordingly. And that's all I'm gonna say.
So having said that, let's move on to the next one.
Wait a minute. One mic. Pull your pants up. Pull your pants up, player. I said, I like you. Real raw, no condom.
Just another example of the same kind of fucking behavior, if you ask me. A woman trying to tell you what to do, seeing if she can assert her dominance over you, and if you resist it, you pass the shit test, I guess. After which, she now likes you and will allow you to have access. Whereas if you kind of did what she demanded, then, okay, this is a pushover. He's not really a man of some kind. And so, fuck him. I don't want to have anything to really do with him in terms of sexuality or something like that. So
I think a lot of dudes are scared to move that way because they think that they're going to lose chance at the box. And what they don't understand about women is that everybody is trying to shoot for the box, and you stand out by not shooting for the box. You know what I mean? It's like O said. He said, I don't care about being liked, and I'm very much the same way. I don't give a fuck if you like me. The thing is, you end up fucking more women that way than trying to be liked. Don't ask me why. I just know that's how it goes down. That's it. That's all I got to say. Shout out to Corbett, man, for all the support you've been giving me. Corbett, go with good.
Yeah, shout out to Corbett, man.
For all the support, shout out to him, man. I don't think I don't know this, but thanks a lot, bro.
Yeah. Well, in the words of the Professor Tom Leykis, treat him like crap, and they always come back. Never apologize. Always agree and amplify. It's that simple.
And shout out to John Gee for hitting me up on the Cash App. Appreciate that. Again, shout out to LaKenzie, Corbett, and Anubis who hit me up on the Cash App. Also, I want to give a shout out to Beretta. He says the Power U doesn't even feel the same because y'all so masculine. He's talking about the Power U is the pussy, of course.
Right.
Salty Balls again says, what the woman say? Talking about the Latina woman before, I was distracted. Yeah, I can understand why you were distracted. I mean, she's a good-looking fucking lady. You know what I'm saying? But the attitudes of some women, regardless as to how they look, can still, make me be like, fuck them. I'll holler at you later. But anyway, let's move through it.
My girlfriend makes $70,000 at her current job. She went to a job interview today. She calls me and tells me she got the job and she's going to be making $100,000 a year. The only problem is her ex from 5 years ago is the boss of the company. I tell her it's gonna make me uncomfortable knowing that she's gonna be around him all day, every day. I tell her if she takes the job, I'm leaving because I know I'm not gonna be able to handle it. If she loves me and wants to stay with me, she's not gonna take the job and she's gonna go somewhere else. My question is, am I doing too much? Does that make me insecure? If you were her, what would you do?
Thoughts?
Are you kidding me?
Oh, you go first, man.
I mean, it's a slam dunk. It's a done deal. Take the job. We're done. You might as well go ahead and move it. Put all your stuff back out on the sidewalk. Take the job.
Yeah, that's my thoughts. Yeah, my thoughts are if you fucking with the boss of the company is a dude you used to fuck with, it's a dunzo. I'm not about to put myself in that situation. Can't do it.
Yeah, it's over.
Right.
Simple.
I mean, if that's how you feel, then do what you feel. I mean, this is what we tell the women, self-love, put yourself first, healing and all that other nonsense. I mean, look, me, I'd probably take a different approach, I'd tell her go get that money. You know what I mean? But if that's how he feels, because he ain't me, and I always approach things that way. He's not me. So if it's something that's going to bother him, then he got to keep it moving. That's it.
Yeah, the one thing that I think that more men need to realize is that they don't have to sacrifice like everybody is saying that they do. Like you got to sacrifice your money. You have to sacrifice your time, your resources, your energy, and your effort, and all to make somebody happy. But you don't have to worry about your own happiness. I mean, or it's selfish for you to even, take into consideration what makes you comfortable and what makes you happy and what makes you feel secure. It's a bunch of bullshit, man. No, sir. Move past that bullshit. At the end of the day. So anyway, let's move on to the next one, bro.
They're going to be changing the child support laws so that if you can't collect child support unless it's from the biological father, and the biological father must have actually been a part of your life, meaning that a one-night stand cannot be held for child support.
Fucking
good on Andrew, man. Good on him.
Yeah, that's a good one right there. But I mean, yeah, so the whole idea is, you got to have some history with a man. You can't just go out and fuck some random guy, get a baby, and then put that motherfucker on child support.
Thank God that we're getting paternity fraud on the books and being vigorously prosecuted. I don't think it's any accident that it comes on the heels of the overturning of Roe. And I also don't think it's any accident that it comes on the heels of the overturning of affirmative action. If you really sit down and think about it, if you really like think about this hard, affirmative action really affects black women more than it does black men in the aggregate. And if you think about the various ways in which it does, same thing with Roe, same thing Roe v. Wade, and this situation with paternity fraud, I think it's fantastic. If the ladies are strong and independent, don't need no man, now it's time to put it to the acid test.
Right.
Yeah, I think you should see more of this shit in the future. Just as my opinion. I mean, there's another clip. I don't know if I grouped them right together, but I think this is a step forward for men to protect them from exploitation and extortion. Because to me, I mean, right now a lot of women know that this is a way that they can extort and exploit men, and this shit needs to be put to an end. You know what I'm saying? First of all, you need to find out who the real fucking daddy is before you fucking start putting people under the, obligation to take care of a child. And then not only that, you know what I'm saying, you can't just go out here, knock some dude up irresponsibly and then just make him just be the sole, supporter. Fuck that bullshit. That's a bunch of bullshit. You know what I'm saying? That's holding women accountable, if you ask me. Any other thoughts? Any last thoughts you want to put on the table?
I mean, they're realizing that the old way is not going to work. It's not going to be sustainable after a while. I mean, it's just not going to continue to work the way they've been doing it. That's it, But I mean, there's a lot more I can say on that. But yeah, let's move on, man. But I'm, that's just funny as hell, man. But go ahead, man. By the way, what state is that in?
I got to look at it again, but we'll have to check. We have to look into it. There's another video similar to that one, I think, that I put in here, so it might be said in the next one. But let me push on.
We got angry woman in the chat. But go ahead, next one. Next.
All right. So those of you who are in Tennessee, guess what? House Bill 2689.
Tennessee. Well, at least in this state, we know it's Tennessee.
Yeah, and that's where they having the paternity fraud crime bill is there. So I'm glad, very glad. May it spread far and wide throughout the land.
All right, so those of you who are in Tennessee, guess what? House Bill 2689 is getting ready to pass. That is requiring paternity tests before you sign the birth certificate. Because, when people do paternity tests, 1/3 of the time, they end up not being the father. And if they start testing everybody, that number can only go up, not down. It's going to be dramatic. And right now they're starting to also add in things like, maternity fraud is a crime, and a punishable crime. So guys used to go to jail for not paying child support on a child that wasn't theirs. And they're actually starting to jail time the ladies for maternity fraud.
This dude, man. Game over. Game over, ladies.
Yep.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, men have been having to pay child support for children for decades in the United States. Okay, and one could argue rightfully so, if you produce the child, you can't just abandon the child and leave, like the woman with the sole responsibility. Okay, but at the same time, you got a lot of women out here on some hoe shit, you know what I'm saying? Or on some deceptive shit, making niggas pay for children that ain't even theirs. And that, to me, is the ultimate form of fucking disrespect. That's disrespect. It's deceptive. It's treating another individual like a thing instead of treating them like a human being. And we all know that, exploitation and objectification are wrong, correct? But only in the case of men objectifying women. But when women objectify men, that's perfectly fucking acceptable for some of y'all. Yeah. And that, to me, is problematic. That's the double standards that we continuously talk about. And I don't like them. Okay? So for men to fight back and to acknowledge that they also have rights as fathers, or they have rights as men who are not fathers, to not have to pay for motherfucking kids that aren't theirs. But you got a lot, I've seen women even go so far as to say shit like this when they're found out for lying and deceiving. Well, you've been acting as her father, so why would you not support her now?
Because he's not the dad.
Right.
Hey, Queen Boo. Hey, look. You never seen so many sensitive men in your life? Well, fuck it, bitch. We crying now, goddammit. What you gonna do about it?
Ask Queen Boo, will she raise the baby from the other woman?
Fuck no, she ain't raising no baby from another woman.
Yeah, your man goes out, has a baby, and wants you to raise it like Fences, Denzel Washington, and Viola.
And then why you yelling in my chat? Why you keep yelling in my shit?
I'm glad. You know what? Because Felicia was here earlier. Green Gorilla, the other day you had on May.
Right.
And that actually inspired my show on Friday, because it brought to mind something. You had made a really good point to her being May. And you were saying, well, okay, if you're so happily married and you're so happy, why are you spending so much time talking to other men
Right.
in the black manosphere? And it made me wonder about that, about all of these ladies in the community who claim to be happily mated, happily married, happily partnered, but they got so much time to be
Right.
windmilling in the black manosphere. I don't understand that.
That was an honest question. I asked the question myself. Shout out to May. She's in the chat. I ain't got nothing against May. I don't have anything against women being in conversation with men in the manosphere, but do understand it's our space. We talk about what the fuck we want, when we want, how often we want, the extent to which we want, and I don't give a fuck if you feel like we have, an excessive display of feelings or whatever. If a nigga decide to fucking cry in this bitch, so be it. What you gonna tell us we can't have feelings now? Like we're too much emotion is taking place. Now, first of all, none of us here at the current moment have had like any other emotion than like disdain or contempt for fuckery. That's what we've been expressing. But if we do happen to be sad or upset or like going through the range of human emotions, what you gonna tell us we can't do it? Now we bitches though, right? We bitches for like having pain.
Yeah.
Well, you could only.
Here's the other thing. Here's the other thing about May, if I may. Pardon the pun. The thing about May is, in the interview that you did with her, she said that she felt some kind of way about Chantel Simone and Naked Marie. And okay, that's fair. Why are you coming to us asking about them? Go and ask them why they do what they do. Go ask them. Why are you coming here asking us?
Hey, because for 2 seconds, the women ain't gonna have that. They not having it. Look, black women know how black women get down. They know that they can come to us. Listen, May could come to this space and talk to Gigi for however long that stream was. She can't do that over there. And see, the funny thing is they hear everything we're talking about, but they know it to be true.
Yeah.
You can't go over there and tell them women what they can or can't, or what they should or shouldn't talk about. You wouldn't last for 5 seconds. But you come here and we humor you, we entertain you because we've been groomed to. We've been groomed to hear you out. We've been groomed to listen to you and your feelings and your emotions. The women over there don't give a fuck how you feel about what they doing over there. If you disagree with them, they'll call you a pick-me and block you. Straight up.
But look, at the end of the day, I entertain it because, first of all, look, I believe in people being able to hold a wide array of opinions and to express a range of different, approaches to different problems, or to have different political perspectives. It's fine. Okay. The only thing I don't like is disrespect associated with that. So, but I entertain people who I have a divergence of opinions with all the time. I'm fine with having a difference of opinion than somebody else. Okay. Some people aren't. Okay. But that's just me. But anyway, shout out to
we worship whores. What are these whores' names, May?
We worship whores?
That's what she said. Y'all worship whores that don't practice.
Why don't you go and ask why the whores exist in the first place? Well, go over there and ask them why they got to be hoes in the first place, and then come back and report back the result.
She acknowledges that they're whores, first of all. But my thing is, if she's talking about women who do red pill content, manosphere content, I want to know the names of the whores, because there's women that do manosphere content. Which one of them are whores? Say their names.
Oh shit.
That's what I'm interested in.
I like to know their names too. Maybe they can come up here and tell us exactly who these whores are.
Right. And
we want to know
explain to us how we worship.
We're supposedly worshiping. Exactly. Right. Who are these whores?
Yeah, who these whores?
I'm just gonna be honest. Like, let me just be perfectly clear here, man. I really don't consume a lot of manosphere content myself. Okay, and it is not because I don't like the men or that I'm not aware of the kind of issues that they're discussing. It's just that like I got other shit to do in my day. You know what I'm saying? Like, I participate quite often, and in the people who associate with me in the manosphere, as much as I possibly can. But like, I'm not running around like watching anybody's content, men or women. Okay, every now and then I will, but like I got other shit to do. Okay, I have other interests,
right?
And I have a life outside of social media. So let me just put that out there. But Mississippi Delta guy, man, shout out to him. Thank you for the generous donation. He says, my cousin almost got his life destroyed by the child support system for a child that was not his. Some black women are on some bullshit. And thank you.
So May apparently had this issue that she has with Chantel. Apparently, in her mind, Chantel Simone is a whore, and she's a whore because she's not married, she's childless, supposedly has no household. I don't know how she is able to determine that. No submission and independent. All of these things are supposedly what makes her a whore, and that we're supposed to. Now, I must have missed out on this because I don't have my Chantel Simone altar. So I must have missed out on that part about the whole worshiping piece. But nevertheless, this is apparently this is her issue. Her beef is with Chantel Simone, the whore who is not married, childless, no household, no submission, independent, and not a wife, but preaches to other women. Why does May have a problem with Chantel Simone preaching to other women and then coming over to the black manosphere and lamenting that? What are we supposed to tell her don't preach to the other women? I don't understand what we're supposed to do about that.
But let me say this. I don't know who Chantel Simone is. I don't know.
Thank you. There it is.
I have no idea who she is. Okay?
Right.
Like I do. Here are the women I know. I know Danica precisely because Danica's from St. Louis and her shit has popped up on my stream. Okay. I mean, not my stream, but popped up on YouTube. But she from the Lou. So peace to her. And I know she's also like every now and then she's shouted out like Crimson Cure, some shit like that. So they kind of stick together. I've heard of Six the Goddess, but I've never really watched her shit. You know what I'm saying? Like I never watched her shit. I heard of some chick. That was cool with Kevin Samuels, kind of light skinned chick. What's her name?
Melanie King.
I've heard of her, but it's not like I watch her regularly. Like I'm all up in her chats and shit like this. Like I just don't watch the shit. Like I mean I don't, man.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's one thing. I've never watched a Chantel video in my life, but I'm curious as to what part of the dictionary is a whore defined as a woman that's not married, has no children, no household, is independent, and not a wife. Like, what part of the definition of whore is that? Is it definition number 1, 2, 3, or is it synonym? Like, I'm trying to understand, because it would sound to me as though she's calling her a whore for giving us the message about women, right? So you're mad. That's where that comes from. You're upset with this woman for basically saying the shit that we're saying. So you call her a whore, which to me is more misogynistic than the misogyny that you're labeling misogyny, right? Or the shit you're labeling misogyny, because you just call this woman a whore with nothing to back it up. And then your definition that's on the screen right now of why she's a whore, your explanation, has nothing to do with the word whore. Like, whose dick she getting paid to suck, bro?
Exactly.
That's what I want to know. That's what a whore is. A whore is a woman who out here selling pussy. Who bought the Chantel Simone pussy that you know about? And then how do you know?
So yeah, look. Let's like Dwayne say, let's get the likes up to 200, man. I'm about to take a pause for the calls. I'm about to put a commercial on this motherfucker until we get a likes up to 200. If we can't get them up to 200, so I'm about to take a quick commercial break right fast. We'll be right back, man. okay, we're better than what we were. We're not quite where we need to be. I see we got 180 likes as opposed to like 140 what we had before, but I would like to see that number push up past the boundary of 200. Again, this is Short Bus Saturday. You're rocking with Gigi right now. You're rocking with Mumia Obsidian Ali, and you're rocking with Keep It 100, Marcus Aurelius. And we're looking at various shorts, man, and making an assessment of what the fuck is going on with black culture, man, or, you know, with the culture between men and women, man, and dating and mating and all kind of other shit. We talking about whatever we want to talk about, however we want to talk about it. Although people are telling us that we should be doing something else. I guess we should be out working and busting our chops right now to make sure that every woman is provided for and protected and is able to live a life of leisure and creature comforts, and that they all got red bottoms and Lexuses and shit, and that they're all able to eat at the finest restaurants and to do whatever the fuck they want to do, however they want to do it, and that they don't have to really actually be obligated to you if you lose the capacity for you to be able to do that for them. So,
Wow, can't make this stuff up.
And they cursing out any woman who breaks the girl code. That's what this is about. Break the girl code, and you gonna be called all types of sluts and whores and this and that. If we call actual sluts whores and sluts, then we're misogynists.
Yeah, but that language is not reciprocitous. We she knows it, man. But we all every now and then lose our character. The point is, if you're having a conversation with people whom you know that you have a difference of opinion, then you should try to engage them in a reciprocitous manner. That means that you should offer or provide to them reasons that they can accept, devoid of what differences you know are already existent. If you're a blood, don't come to the Crips calling them crabs. If you're a Crip, don't come to the Bloods calling them Slavs. It just is what it is, man. But we already know this. We know how to be reciprocitous when we talk to each other. We know how to, not be offensive when we're trying to be at either peace talks or we're negotiating or like we're just exchanging ideas. We know how to do that. Okay. Now, every now and then I throw around terms that I shouldn't. I get it. I probably shouldn't use the word bitch so often. But I mean, it doesn't stop women from saying the N-word. I know that.
That's true. And then they put bitch, they combinate the two. So they say bitch ass nigga. I've noticed that a lot. But in any event, let me ask you this, Green Gorilla, because you are an academic. Let me ask you your considered erudite opinion about this. Why do you think so many lovely ladies of the community, be they card-carrying black feminists, and I had one all over, windmilling all over my comment section yesterday on my live show, one Miss Kimberly Nicole Foster for Harriet fame, and I've tangled with black feminists, quite a few. I have a rogues gallery of them over the years. Why do you think so many black women, whether they're card-carrying black feminists or not, what bothers them about a black manosphere? What's the problem there in your studied view as an academic and scholar?
Well, I think more than anything else, black men have been historically silenced through threat of violence, intimidation. And so, I mean, this is just another form of continuing that practice. The idea that you really actually have a voice. I mean, you have demands, that you have standards, that you have values, that you have a voice. And then also, I mean, in relation to feminism, the idea is that black women have been marginalized and that their voice hasn't been, centered. And so therefore, the more and more men speak, the more it decenters the female voice. So there's that kind of viewpoint. My viewpoint on it is, and I said this before, you don't need permission to speak. This is supposed to be a democracy where the exchange of ideas, whether they're bad ideas or good ideas, they ought to be put out in the public sphere. And the forceless force of the better argument is the thing that should hold sway. It just is what it is. The idea that certain people should be silenced because of the viewpoints that they hold, or that they shouldn't be able to offer or proffer an argument because the argument doesn't fit in with their own value system, to me is, quite frankly, it is the textbook definition of oppression. You can't say these things. You can't speak about these issues. Why the fuck not? If you have a better position, and if your viewpoint or if your norms or your value system is so superior, then I mean, for crying out loud, why is there in any degree any kind of popularity or any kind of like convergence or a community of people building up around these issues at all? So, I mean, when your viewpoint becomes hegemonic or it becomes the standard, people want to protect it as being the standard, and they don't like to be challenged. Okay, it's almost as if somebody challenging the Pope, or somebody's challenging, some dictator, right? Who wants to hear opposition when for so long you've been the only voice? And this is my opinion about this. Okay, so it's called hegemony. They have become a hegemonic voice. Okay, and they don't like challengers, but they got to deal with these challenges. It is what it is.
So you're suggesting it's kind of like the black Borg. I used to call it the black Borg female highmind. I'm a big Star Trek fan, so I liken it to the Borg, and I call it the black Borg female hive mind. And the Borg is a kind of like a hegemon. If you know the show, you know what I'm talking about. The Borg is kind of like a hegemon. So are you suggesting that there's a black Borg female hive mind hegemon here at work here?
Well, this is what I'll say. That in the academy in particular is where the hegemonic voice of wokeness kind of emerged, okay? And now if you challenge it, it's characterized as violence, it's characterized as dangerous, it's characterized as regressive, it's characterized as toxic, that it will lead to ineluctably violence and, a kind of walking back of rights, a walking back of the expansion of liberty for women. And it all depends on what you consider liberty to be. If you consider liberty being able to, have a kid with a man during a one-night stand and then to get money out of his ass for 18 years, well then, if repealing your ability to do that or like preventing you from being able to do that is something you characterize as a limitation of your freedom, then it is. Like, or like if you think that like being able to have a baby with somebody else, but then the man that you're able to trick into thinking the father is supposed to pay, if you think that like liberty is being able to make the man who isn't the father continue to pay, then like if there's a contestation of that, then I guess you would consider that to be a limitation of your freedom. I personally think that there should be a continuous exchange in a so-called democracy. Like the cornerstone of it, any democracy should be free speech. So the very idea that like somebody would try to curtail the speech of anybody, whatever it be. I mean, I don't care if it's fucking racist speech. I don't care if it's, like anti-black speech. I mean, it's one thing for a person to, attack ideas. It's another thing to attack persons. And what we're doing is challenging practices. We're challenging institutions. We're challenging policies. We're challenging, the way people are, supposed to think about what value they have in relation to dating and mating. These are not things like attacking people's personhood. This is attacking traditions. This is attacking systems. This is saying, look, this is what we consider to be right or wrong, just or unjust. And I think it's fair play.
Hey, G, let me add to that. I think that people on the higher portion of the scale of intellect see it the way you do, right? The average Keisha don't see it that way. The average Keisha look at it like, if y'all niggas keep talking, I'm gonna lose these benefits. I'm gonna lose this money. There's so much tangible shit for them to lose, and there's also power for them to lose. Victimhood is power, and we're infringing on the block. You know what I'm saying? It's like you on the block, you selling where Raheem sell at. Raheem can't make all the money on the block because now you on the block, right? He got to get you off the block, right? Victimhood is the block, is their block. Don't come to my block trying to, you know what I'm saying, with your shit. You on my block. And victimhood has gotten them a lot of tangible shit and power, right? So it's more so than just ideas, and they're not worried about free speech and all this other shit that we may talk about. They benefit from it in tangible fashion.
For sure.
tangible fashion,
Yeah.
right?
I'll
So
admit that.
that's what the ability, like you said, the ability to say this nigga's the father of the baby and to get money from him and live on that money. That's a real thing that has real life benefits, right? Is more than I'm right and you're wrong, because that's a challenge of ideas, right? I'm right, you're wrong, argument over. No, this is a real thing that they're fighting for. To be honest, to some degree, it's survival for them, because without us, they die, bro.
Well,
Understand this. Without men upholding all of this stuff for women, they die. All the things that they brag about, oh, I work here, I type here in this air-conditioned place with these 4 walls built from this mortar and brick and everything that men created. Without all of that, they fucking die.
I think you're right about that. And look, shout out to Mr. Fantastic. Shout out to him. I think that.
Oh, shout out to Fantastic. What's good, bro?
I think that ultimately what we are doing is, by speaking, we are having an impact on the discourse, and which is natural in a democracy or any kind of public sphere. Like when a cross section of persons have the capacity or the ability to put forth their ideas or their viewpoints, it should naturally have an impact over decision-making processes, and it should have an impact over what people consider to be right or wrong, or fair or unfair, or just or unjust. It just is what it is. So, I mean, like, black men are not, like, it's not customary that they have a voice. And because, as Dr. T. Hassan Johnson would say, typically there's always been this kind of flat blackness, right? There hasn't been, like, a black male voice arguing for what's beneficial to him in contradistinction to the rest of the black community. Whereas for the past 60 years, black women have been arguing for what's best for them, singularly, okay? So now that men are saying, look, this doesn't work for me. This shit ain't working for me. Now everybody, well, you're sensitive. Oh, you're acting like a woman now because you're actually standing up for yourself, which is oxymoronic if you ask me. Right. So you mean to tell me if I'm going to a counseling session, right, and you got a woman there and, it's a man there and they're talking about the kind of issues they have in their relationship, and the woman is the only motherfucker that gets to speak about what the nigga's doing wrong, and as soon as the man starts speaking, the woman says, well, how dare you expose our dirty laundry or what the fuck I'm doing wrong? This is about me being able to express myself to the counselor and to get you to change your behavior. Fuck me changing my behavior. Because ultimately, when you do that, I mean, you're demonstrating that you've done nothing wrong. Or, you see what I'm saying? Like, I want the world to arc towards my desires. And, like, it should be that way without any interference. Fuck you standing up for yourself or actually establishing what it is that you want or what you want to see out of the world, which men have been doing, like, from time immemorial. When have you known it to be the case that men just have to shut up, be quiet, and take whatever the fuck type of shit is hurled at them? That's just not how the human species operates. It never has been. So
nobody gives a fuck about the feelings of the slave.
Yeah,
nobody cares about the opinions of the slave. Nobody cares about what the slave don't get. How, what happens to the slave? You're a slave. You're here to serve. You are here to serve. That is your purpose for breathing air and drinking water on this motherfucker. You are here to serve. And when people look at it in that context, and a lot of black men view themselves as slaves in their morality and in their mentality, they view themselves as slaves, right? So it's to them, it's I can only be if I serve. I am here to serve. With the high table, these bitches is the high table, right? So
look, bro,
they are scared to death of all these things that we're saying, and even with some of these paternity things, how scared you think these women are that some of these laws are coming about? They gotta be scared to death.
Yeah, especially if they lying like a motherfucker.
Right, because it's how some of them live. Understand that for some women, again, not all, but for some women, for a good amount of women, this is how they eat, bro. Yeah, ooh, independent woman, got the briefcase and the suit, you know, the power suit and all that. Okay, that's those women. Well, okay, what about the women who this is how they gotta eat? Oh, damn, we can't eat like that no more. What the fuck is we gonna do?
Well, they're gonna do something, but in the meantime, cut! Cut them broads off. Cuts.
Yeah. So look, let's progress though. let's progress and proceed. You know what I'm saying? So let's put. I like that little sound effect.
I was waiting for one of those, man. You know
I paid the kids. I said, if y'all can whoop Bud, I give y'all $10 a piece. Can none whoop him.
This is my mom, Deborah. We got like a love-hate relationship. We got a love-hate relationship.
When she always telling you you're gonna lose, or you're not good enough, or you're gonna get your ass kicked, or things like that, it's like, okay. When I win this tournament, she gonna say congratulations, or good job, or I'm proud of you. But it never happened.
Some things that I said to him, I wanted him to be a man. Don't be afraid of nobody.
That's a hard lesson to learn, you're 12, 13.
Yeah, but he had to learn it.
Wicked big plans got team where I'm from. Where I'm from, it's Collins 13 where I'm from. Where I'm
God damn, man, that's fucking crazy, man. The first time I saw that shit, it was another clip that I saw. That was a little bit more extensive than this. I opted not to use it because it had Sam Cooke music going in the background. That would have been a definite. You'll never be able to make a copyright sent off this video unless you clip it out. But just imagine your mother never giving you words of encouragement at all. Yeah. Like ever. Like, and then like paying little niggas in the neighborhood to whip your ass to try to make you tough. Like, imagine that shit. Wow. Now, I'm not saying that it didn't make him tough, you know, in reference to him being able to box or whatever, but god damn, man. I mean, you know, I even was critical of Michael Jordan's father, who did something similar, you know, like when he used to, you know, kind of like tell him he wasn't gonna never be shit in you know, contradistinction to his brother, you know, because, you know, his brother could play better, Jordan's brother, Larry Jordan, could play better than Michael when they were younger. You know what I'm saying? But like, I mean, come on.
Wow. Yeah, that's nothing short of abusive. I mean,
and look, let me say this, man. Look, let me say this, man, bro. When do you hear us really actually comparing ourselves to women? In what regard? Like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? See, this is the reason why I don't like the internet, man, because motherfuckers come saying shit to me I consider to be absolutely disrespectful, and it has no bearing on what the fuck we actually are talking about. Like, there are, first and foremost, let me just say this. Is it or is it not the truth that during the 60s, women were interpolated into the Civil Rights Act? True or false? And if it's true, didn't they say, I don't want to be treated differently. We want to be treated equally. We don't want to be put on pedestals. We don't want to walk 10 paces behind. We don't want to have differences in opportunities and all of this kind of shit. If that's the case, then why the fuck we demanding like different treatment? Like how right now this society is schizophrenic. Motherfuckers don't know whether to be traditional or progressive. Motherfuckers don't know whether to pay for everything or, you know, like to walk away and make this chick pay for half the motherfucking lunch or the dinner. Motherfuckers don't know what to do. This society is schizophrenic. It's all over every place. So, I mean, the issue, and then you got guys coming in telling you what the fuck you supposed to do, and then it's a liberal society, supposedly, where motherfuckers can do whatever they want to. But then you telling people what they gotta do. Stop comparing yourself to this or that. When did you hear us compare ourselves to women? We already acknowledge that there are certain differences amongst men and women, but there are a whole society of scholars that say different or otherwise. That there are no really noticeable or substantive differences between men and women. So, like, at the end of the day, let me just say this shit. I'm gonna keep it a buck. This is a fact, man. I slap the shit out of a nigga. Probably more before I will, you know, a woman. But like, if a woman proceeds to continuously fuck with me, I'm gonna slap the shit out of her ass too. Don't give a fuck and won't care about it. Fuck the consequences. Just is what it is. Man, bruh, this is not the truth, man. All this shit you talking about, real men are the leaders, and if men will change, women will change, bullshit.
That's a woman.
Yeah.
That's bullshit.
Yeah.
That's a woman.
Because let me tell you something. There's no man more manly in relation to outcome and impact than Jeff Bezos. His wife left his ass, didn't she?
That's true.
Huh? Who's more alpha than the motherfucker at Amazon? Who? I want you to tell me in terms of money making. Who?
That's a female.
Okay? Well, yeah. But I just want to say, all I'm saying is, look, who was more on top of his game than Michael Jordan? Who? His wife divorced him, didn't she? Who was more manly and more alpha than motherfucking Dr. Dre in terms of making money and having a claim? Who? Who's more manly than Tiger Woods? Who?
Me.
Who's more manly than Emmitt Smith? Who? So it can happen to all the wealthiest, richest motherfuckers where they women decide, oh, we got irreconcilable differences.
That's a woman.
Women don't just bend to any goddamn thing. Women ain't changing because that's, man, fuck that bullshit. That's bitch babble, man. It is what it is, man. That's bitch babble, man.
Hey.
We ain't going for the bitch babble over here, man.
You know how I know that's a girl? The Capitals.
It's the same chick. It's the same chick, the Queen Boo, all the way to whoever it was initially.
You couldn't come up with a better alias than Real Brother. Real Brother.
You could have been like these nuts or something. It might have been more believable.
Right. No, niggas ain't calling themselves Real Brother. Get the fuck out of here,
man. I'm banning that shit, man. I'm done, man. Like, I'm not entertaining the fuckery anymore. But let's push on, man.
Real Brother.
Those guys who parked there were told not to leave it there, and they left it there.
What's your thoughts about that shit, man?
I have yet to do a stream on this, but it's coming.
Oh, jeez. Well, I'm glad that I am not below the Mason-Dixon line. I'm very glad about that.
But I mean, look, he did the Bobby Shmurda with his hat. I'm like, what the fuck was that about, man?
Yeah,
like,
yeah, that's the first thing I thought. Bobby Shmurda. Yeah, the Bobby Shmurda.
But I mean,
why do you do that?
First and foremost, let me just say this, man. You know, the white dudes were wrong for attacking that black dude, man. Okay.
Wasn't he like a security guard or something?
Yeah, he was like a
I heard
security
he was
guard. Somebody like
captain. I heard he owned the boat or captain of the ship or some shit like that. I heard
he's operating in an official capacity to handle security-based business at that fucking dock.
Yeah, he was attacked. Yeah.
I know that.
And white people weren't able to do what the fuck they wanted to do at that spot, which they were told to move and they didn't want to move or some shit like that, or they were in a space that they weren't supposed to be. And I guess, you know, they considered themselves to be able to do whatever the fuck they want. And then they assaulted this black guy. You saw that he was assaulted unjustly and unprovoked, you know, in an unprovoked manner. And here come the nigger brigade. This is what it is. Okay, are y'all gonna jump on black people now?
He was the co-captain. But yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So he's right. He's acting in.
You gonna jump on you jumping on niggas now? And okay, so niggas about to jump on y'all now. Personally, I don't see nothing wrong with it. I'm just keeping it a buck. A lot of people might be embarrassed by it. I'm not embarrassed by it.
Well, you know the push dagger. Just a little interesting tidbit. The push dagger was invented by riverboat gamblers. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the push dagger was invented. This is right before pistols were small enough to be able to be concealable in the 19th century. Along the Mississippi River, many professional gamblers made their living, and many of them were like the celebrities of their day. So like Doc Holliday was a known gambler, and he played cards along the Mississippi River as well. But Mississippi gamblers are going all the way down into Louisiana. The push dagger was developed as a quick and dirty means to defend yourself at the gambling table, and it became so ubiquitous that in New Orleans there was a ordinance making push daggers illegal because they were so lethal. The push dagger, it's considered today, and it has been known ever since as a gentleman's weapon.
Yeah, so probably I think it was justifiable if you getting like motherfucking jump like that to use a push dagger or a push pistol, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Like, I don't believe in people just jumping you. You know what I'm saying? Like, so 1, 2, 1 white boy, 2 white boy, 3 white boy, 4. Like, fuck all that. And if I'm black and I'm there, I probably would do the same shit. Like, what y'all doing? What you attacking this cat for, man?
I've had debates with dudes over this, right? Some some of them, who call themselves conservative, right? I don't know how much that has to do with it, but their problem is, oh, it got out of control, this and that, yada yada. And the first thing dudes run to is all these thugs or pookies, and it's like, if that's your knee-jerk reaction to this. And I think that a lot of us still have this thing is how, we talk about the simp chip and all that, but there's another thing that we also have where we look at, like, if this was just the captain getting beat up by them white people, we'd be mad, we'd be, protesting and making noise and all this shit. Because that's the way we have adopted this MLK approach from civil rights to dealing with racism and white folks, right? But in this video, you got a bunch of dudes that's like, nah, fuck that, we whipping their ass. And a lot of black men that I've had this conversation with, they had a problem with seeing those white people hurt by those black men. And the first thing they went to is, these thugs, these are pookies, these are ray-rays and all of that type of shit, right? And they're embarrassed by it, for one reason or the other. The thing that I find interesting is, let's say that these were pookies and ray-rays, because I seen somebody in the chat says that these guys were part of the boat crew. And I thank you for that information, because that's ammunition that I'm going to take back to the conversation that I'm referencing, right? But let's say these were pookies and ray-rays, right? Now, I've often heard the argument after the Trayvon Martin situation, why y'all ain't do nothing to George Zimmerman? All y'all thug niggas, right? All the thug niggas, instead of attacking other black people, should go after George Zimmerman. Good point. Good point. Well, here we are. These quote-unquote pookies and ray-rays went after white supremacy, right? I guess, for lack of a better way of phrasing it. And now you got a problem with that, right? Now, is this some huge step for black people? Is it going to get us power, get us resources? Nah, fuck all that. That's not what this is. That's what it's not. What it is was, we said, fuck standing there and videotaping the ass whooping to take it to court to get justice. No, we gonna whoop your ass right here, right now, on the spot. Right? So In another case where you say, well, this is what they should have done, here you are where they did it. And now you got an issue with that. Motherfuckers can't win for losing. No matter what you do or don't do, you're going to get criticized either way. Okay. So if these are the Pookies and Ray Rays, this is exactly what you would want them to do, is to whoop racist white people's ass. Like you said they didn't do to George Zimmerman or Chauvin or any other white man that done shot a black man. Here it is in practice, and you're bitching about it. They took it too far. The white lady got hit with a chair and shit. I don't give a flying fuck what happened to them people, especially in that part of the country. Your Louisiana, your Alabama, your Mississippi. These are the people you're sympathizing with. If the tables would turn, you think any of these people, these white people didn't arrive to the scene to break shit up. They arrived to help beat this black man's ass. And that all came from the fact that that black man was in an authority position to tell them to move their shit, and they did not want to hear that shit coming from a black face. That's what that shit was about. How dare you tell us Caucasians what the fuck we need to do in the moment?
So let me make sure I got this right. So the brother in question, doing the Bobby Shmurda thing, he's a co-captain, head of security. So I'm curious, is the captain of the boat also a black man? In other words, is the riverboat black owned and operated?
I think so.
It may be, yeah.
I think so. And but you know, my issue is this, man. I think Marcus is spot on with this one. You know, I'm not just for violence in general, and I'm not encouraging like black people to start some sort of race war or anything, because I think it would end up in our decimation. That's just my viewpoint. Given that we don't have access to munitions, weapons, we don't have tactics in order to fight against one of the most technologically advanced militaries in the world, and we're not like connected ideologically or politically or ethically in a way that, you know, would lead to us having the kind of coordination that would be required to even make something like that happen. But at the end of the day, I think that like allowing yourself to be exposed to injustice and there's no natural consequences to it, man, it just begs, you're asking for more subjection to injustice and violence. I mean, like, here's an older guy, man, just getting jumped on by a whole bunch of white guys. So, you know, here come Pookie and Ray Ray, who you always dispel, who you always say ain't shit, who you always say is a fucking coward, who you always say is a drag of society who needs to be fucking murdered and eliminated. He went and did his job that day. And then when he did that job, now you want to say that this nigga still ain't shit.
Right.
And that's the problem I have with it, because again, I think that Roguish the Billmonger is right. He says you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So you better do it to motherfucking death. That's a good one, man. I like that. I like that one, Dirty.
I resent the fact that these guys are being called Pookies and Ray Rays without even knowing. We don't even know who these guys are. We just know that they came to the rescue. That's all we know about them. We don't know they got criminal records. If they hug the block, we don't know nothing about them, but they black. So that tells me something about the black men who called them by that name and associated their willingness to fight back with criminality.
Yeah, I think that's problematic. I mean, you know, like for black people to resist against injustice and violence to be considered to be nigga shit, like, come on, man. Like, I mean, everything is nigga shit in that case. Like,
because we're
Harriet Tubman was on some nigga shit. John Brown was on some nigga shit. Denmark Vesey was on some nigga shit. Nat Turner was on some nigga shit. If that's the case, but you know, like, but we can run this, man, ad nauseum. I don't want to stay stuck here.
Yeah. The only way to be a good black person is to take the abuse and then go through the quote unquote proper channels to fight for justice. That's the only way to be a good black person. You a nigga if you exercise the same shit back that they exercised on you. That's you a nigga. you know, you a Pookie, you a Ray Ray, you a thug, and this and that and the other, when you strike back the way you were struck. But to be a good black man is to go through their system for justice. Fuck anybody who thinks so.
So anyway, let's push through this, man. We got to keep going. Okay. This is the last, well, close to the last one. If
And the thing about the black man is fantasized throughout all races and religions and all creeds. So all different kinds of women still want the black man. The only man that wants the black woman is the black man, and she's on us. So what they gonna do when we not here?
So honestly,
bro, the only person that wants the black woman is the black man. The white boys ain't dealing with all that noise. They're not dealing with all that mouth. We the only ones that do that, right? And when we not here, they gonna be alone. I'm telling you.
Message.
Okay. That was interesting.
If you look at dating app statistics, he's absolutely correct.
Oh yeah, he's right. What he's saying is correct. Yeah, what he's saying is right.
Let's see. I got another one. Let's run through that one and talk about them in conjunction because that's the last short. So let me push through.
If you thought that your job was stressing you out, I'm going to make sure I stress you out even more. If you can do this and go above and beyond for your job title, I'm going to make you go above and beyond for me. I'm not going to give you understanding. I'm not going to give you this. And also, I'm going to continue to always remind you how much I also don't need you.
Preach it.
You're a plus. You're an afterthought. I can figure this out even if you wasn't here.
Can we let it breathe? The first person they're going to bring it out on is not their best friend when they on the phone. It's not their parents when they call them. It's their man when he gets home from having a day. Crazy.
Yeah, that's the end of that shit. So let me go back to mine. What's your thoughts on both of those?
I'm trying to you go ahead. Go ahead.
Put it out on the sidewalk.
Right.
That's just that simple. Pack her stuff up, put it out on the sidewalk. There she go.
I'm one of them leave a bitch on the side of the highway niggas. I've done it.
I actually done that before. Yeah.
I'll do it again.
Yeah, I took a lady once way back and went out on a date and took her out. And she was talking about how she need this, she need that, she need this, she need that. I said, yeah, well, I actually need my dick sucked too. So I'll tell you what. Instead of taking you out, I'll give you the money. And we do that, and we can go from there. And she said, no, I want you to take me home. I said, okay, well, let me pull over. You can get out. She said, you're not going to drive me home? I said, you're not going to suck my dick? She said, no, okay, don't slam my door. You get home the way you okay.
Oh, man.
You wrote.
So, yeah, hold on. Yeah, so I just pulled that up just so we can get started with this whenever you're ready to get it. But, like, my viewpoint on it is, we gotta stop lying and act like black women don't have fucking attitudes and shit, bro. And the question is, where does this shit come from, man? Like, where the fuck does it come from, man? The Klingon shit, like the battle readiness, like the.
No, we already know. We already know where it comes from. And it's funny, Shay Sade just said it, right? But it's something that I've been saying for years. Black women want to be white women. Let's just call a spade a fucking spade. They want to be white women. They're not necessarily, I mean, in some cases they want to be white women, but they want the lifestyle. They looking at it like, yo, that white woman is, they look at TV. They don't look at actual white women. They look at TV, they look at media, and they see a white woman living a certain way. They watch Dynasty, they watch Falcon Crest, they watch All My Children, they watch all of this shit, and they get a picture of how white women are living, and then they look at they dude like, why you can't give me that? That's what I want. Bad and bougie. They want to be bad and bougie. You understand what I'm saying? They want the big fucking Gucci goofy shades with the the clutch purse and the high red bottom heels. That's what they want. They want that. They want that. And again, provider male is dead. They don't worry about food on the table. They don't worry about that. They got that. Uncle Sam got that covered. They want that lifestyle that they're seeing on Instagram, on Twitter, and all, every other media platform that they're seeing this on. They, you know, that's what they want, and they're upset that we haven't given that to them just freely. But just that's what they're not, you know, even with the soft life shit now, like they want to lay back. But what I don't understand is that attitude that you just played in the last video, because now that I watched the last video, I forgot the one you played before it. What would make any man in his right mind like deal with that? Like, you know, yeah, I'm a, you know, oh, she don't give a fuck about this, about that. She going, you got to be the softest, most beta nigga in the world to say, I want to take that on as a project. I mean, what? I'm just saying, look, it's just crazy to me, but there's dudes that do it.
Well, I'm gonna tell you how the shit start off, right? So it don't always start off like, and you know, Jamfar says it's attitude, really it's ego protection to have an inferiority complex. That I think that has something to do with it. But like these chicks don't start clowning like from the outset. Most of them don't. Like they wear a mask and shit, right? So they be trying to behave themselves as much as they fucking possibly can for months and months and months and months and shit. And fucking suck you and shit like that real good. See, I ain't never had a problem with like, you know, like having access to the pussy and shit like that. And then I ain't never really had to pay for it, you know, in order to have access to it. Then I'm good at screening. I just don't believe in tricking and shit in order to get access to women. So, and I've never really had to, you know, like to demonstrate my financial fitness to be able to, you know, have access to the trim or whatever. So it's not really actually been my thing. But, you know, after you start smashing them for a while, it's all good. Like everything is euphoric and romantic and all that kind of bullshit. But then when the enchantment wears off and the motherfucking charm is, you know, it's all done, you know, then like people get real and shit. Then the real woman come out. Man, it's different than like at the so-called courting or the, you know, the initial stages where y'all just, everybody is fucking and sucking, you know what I'm saying, type time popping off. Then everything start getting real. Then you start to see the real attitude and the real face and the real, you know, comportment and disposition. And that's, you know, sometimes it takes for you to have a kid for it to happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it's crazy to me, but like, so at the end of the day, man, like a lot of guys, man, are chasing the dragon, like of early stages or the initiatory stages of a relationship, like where it wasn't problematic or where it wasn't, you know, chock full of all the bullshit. You know what I'm saying? So, and then you got guys who are married, like people who are married, man, they start off one way. That shit, like 5, 6, 7, 8 years down the line, that chick might be a whole different person.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, a lot of guys are trying to, like, get something back to the way it was. Like, typically, relationships don't start off, like rocky like that. In order for you to even develop one, because the average guy's going to be like, this bitch is out of her motherfucking mind. Fuck her. I'm out. I'm riding out. Like, any guy who has no real intimate connection with somebody, it'd be easy to just be like, fuck it. But, like, when you got, like, years invested in the motherfucker and then all of a sudden you got problems, like people are like more willing to try to work it out. But my suggestion is, man, look, there are certain places or stages of a relationship that can't be mended, man. And men try too fucking hard in many instances. They try way too hard to try to get the shit back the way it was, where the woman is not cooperating at all. And you got to be able to recognize the difference between a woman who's actually working on it or a woman who's just like trying to exploit and manipulate you and be vindictive as hell. And the relationship is already over, but you just don't know it yet. You know what I'm saying? So men need to learn how to see the exit sign first. Fuck this chick.
Right.
I'm out.
What men need to think more of an abundance than scarcity. There's more women here. There's way more women here than us, right? I'm gonna speak to that other short you played, the one that you played, you know, that we are all Black women have. And now I remember the short. And I want you to speak to this when once you hear it. In the history of the world, you know, when men conquer a place, they take the women, right? You know, in all of world history, that's what they've done. All the colonizers and the conquistadors and all these motherfuckers, when they take a place, they kill the men and they take the women.
Yep.
That has not happened here. The black women or the black woman is the only woman that has not been taken by the colonizer. They don't want them. If white men wanted black women, they could have them. They could have them, but they don't want them.
Man, that's a strong indictment there, man.
They look, more than half of Asian, I got to say American-born Asian women marry white men. This is over half, over 50%. Oh yeah, the guys in the chat are saying, yeah, they're mentally colonized. Yeah, I don't argue with that, but they don't, as much as I hear, the opposing force on YouTube talking about, what we need to do this and do that for black women, this and that, and we ain't adequate and this and that and the other. Okay, there are other races of men in America. Why they ain't going there? Why isn't since the black man is so weak and so powerless and so conquered and this and that, why aren't black women en masse exploring other options? We've been here longer than most of the other groups, right? Why aren't they over there in huge numbers? Because those guys is, like you said at the top of this discussion, the long-term shit is men's domain. They'll fuck them, but they ain't gonna marry them, not in no meaningful numbers. So at the end of the day, what old boy said is real. If white men wanted black women, they'd have them. They'd take them. Absolutely. But they don't want them. Every problem that white men have with black women are the same shit, the same problems we have. But because they have the choice, they ain't choosing. These bitches ain't getting chosen. So
yeah, well,
they'll fuck them, but that'll be about it. And they stuck, and that's why you get all of this Umar Johnson with ignore this, and you got all these hotep dudes telling you what to ignore to be with these women, because you have to ignore what the other races of men aren't to be with them, because the black women themselves have nowhere to go, man. And just to end it this way, I went to London, and in London they don't give a fuck. This shit that we talk over here, black man must be with a black woman, that shit is different over there. And it was a culture shock for me. I'm like, oh, words like that. White girl eyeballing me on the fucking train and shit. Like, it's regular for them. If black women could date out like black men, they wouldn't give a fuck who we were with. But because they cannot, they have to shame us into fucking with them and ignoring all their flaws, their character flaws, their physical flaws, and all of that shit. And it's not working. So, yeah.
Obsidian, you got anything you want to say about that?
No, man. Mark, he hit the nail on the head. Bravo. I can't even add anything.
Now, we about to move to another phase of this show. No, we're about to move to another phase of this show, right? And so we got a video, and Obsidian wants, he emailed me. Go ahead and set this up, man. You set it up, man.
Yeah, this is a video of a gentleman by the name of Chris Williamson. He's a pretty popular YouTuber by way of the UK. He now lives in the United States. Last time I checked, Texas. I think he's in Austin nowadays. Does a lot of interviews with notable people, and he has a lot of tie-in to the manosphere, the white manosphere. And I find a lot of his interviews pretty interesting. In any event, a little while back, the black lady that you see on the right-hand side of the screen, her name is Christine Emba, E-M-B-A. She wrote a article appearing in the Washington Post about the state of men and what are we going to do about it and all that sort of thing. So what I found interesting about Emba is that she's talking to all of these white guys about the state of men. And she's a black woman and hasn't sought out the black manosphere. And I just find that very interesting. Yeah. And I just find it interesting. It should be noted that I think she's of Nigerian background. Don't hold me to that, but she's definitely not ADOS. She is of continental African background, and there that brings its own set of particularities and even challenges with it. But in any event, she's kind of pushing this conversation along. So I just found it really interesting, and since the Green Gorilla has also kind of tapped in on the Christine Imba situation, I contacted him, let him know about this interview with her and Chris Williams that happened after Green Gorilla's original presentation, and suggested that we get together and kind of chop it up and give our response, our kind of running commentary response to this interview. And that's how we're here right now. So there you go.
And, I just want to say to Marcus, like, you're not required to stay here. I mean, if this is not what you want to do, but you can, okay? We're just going to have a conversation about this video. It's a rather long video, okay?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna drop down and let y'all do what y'all plan to do. I don't want to interfere with that. It was good chopping it up with you all.
Thanks a lot, man. We need to do it again sometime. As a matter of fact, I got to run downstairs and grab something real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay.
No doubt. Yeah. So yeah, I know y'all had planned this. We do our short bus thing, and y'all about to have an addendum or an amendum to this. So I'm gonna let y'all do that. And I'm gonna listen in, man. I'm gonna let y'all, because to be honest, the dude looks familiar to me, right? But I don't know who he is, and I've never seen no girl before. So, I'm gonna just enjoy the rest of the show. Make me some eggs and some grilled chicken, because it's been 2 hours. So I need to hit the protein again.
For sure.
All right, so go ahead and do your thing, man. Yo, shout out to the
and
chat.
while you bullshit, man, I ordered some of that shit, man. I ordered some carnivore.
Oh, okay.
And I got a like a prescription, not a prescription, but a membership where they give it to you every month.
On Amazon, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
so it costs $52. They were trying to charge me $64 for it. I'm like, I'm not paying fucking $64 for that shit. No.
Now, just to let you know and let everybody in the chat know, this is how you get a deal on Amazon, is to do exactly that. You sign up for the subscription, buy the thing, and if you want to cancel later, you can.
Yeah, you can cancel that shit. Yeah,
cancel it. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man. I'm on my 0 carb week, so I'm doing eggs and grilled chicken, just straight up. Eggs and grilled chicken breast, straight up. I gotta do this for a week. And I'm sitting here drinking a ton of water, gallons of water. So that's what I'm doing this week, man. And next week I'm gonna look like Statue of David.
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to get the protein in me. So I bought the carnivore. Yeah, it's Muscle Meds.
Right, Muscle Meds, carnivore.
Yeah, so I bought the carnivore, and I bought a 4-pound tub. It's supposed. I know it, in a month I'll be able to run through a whole tub. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll probably take it like 2 or 3 times a day.
Right.
Probably get up in the morning, take me a dose, work out. I like to work out early, not later on in the afternoon or the evening. But sometimes you get forced into doing that kind of shit.
Right.
But what I like to do is to get it over with, and that way I ain't got to worry about it until the next day. But like, I like to. So generally what I do is I like to superset push and pull and shit like that. So
right.
I'll do back and chest. You know what I'm saying? On one day, like a Monday. You know what I'm saying? Or then I'll do like legs and shoulders. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then I do arms and probably like lower legs or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Where I do a lot of calf raises and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? So
I'm gonna post the carnivore, and I also have a casein protein that I use before bed and when I wake up. I'll post that on my community tab, and so people can see what it is, man. Keep it 100, right? I'll post on the community tab, right? But
sure.
y'all go ahead and do your thing. I'm gonna break out.
All right, man. Be good.
All right, peace. T-Fitness for you. Peace.
Peace.
All right, later, y'all.
Yeah, and then so a casein protein is a slow digesting protein. Like it takes a long time to digest. Whereas a whey protein, is something that gets infused in your system rather quickly. You know what I'm saying? But like if I work out, I like to do push pull, and I like to I like to superset. You know what I'm saying? That's how I like to get down. So I'm waiting on Obsidian to get back. But before he gets back, let me just break down. I mean, if you didn't see the video, so me, BGS, and Dr. Tiasan Johnson did a video about Christine Imba in an article. Like, I can't remember the name of it, but it had to do with like the crisis amongst men. Okay. And like, if you just want to know what the general thrust of the article was, it went something like this. The labor market in and of itself has changed. And because of that change, there's been an impact on masculinity. Okay. So you've had deindustrialization, you've had automation, you've seen the rise of the economy, a shift in the economy from a manufacturing-based to a service-based economy where you have to have credentials and things like this. So it's begun to change the whole conception of what masculinity is, specifically, and I think Marcus talked about this, about the provider model. That model pretty much is dead, okay? And you have the rise of women's participation in the workforce and the increasing of their educational accomplishments. And what this has done is you've seen, like it impact men in such a way that like they're more single than they've ever been, and they're lonely, and they're young, not just old men who are, subjected to this. It's young men. And while women have had the ability to like enjoy the lion's share of attention related to their evolution, their progress, and so on and so forth, like men have been left to the wayside. They've been kind of pushed to the periphery. They've been marginalized, so to speak. Now, in their estimation, well, at least in this article, Christine Imba basically says, well, what this has done is it's opened up a pathway for persons called masculinity gurus, okay? People like Jordan Peterson, politicians like Senator Josh Hawley from Missouri, people like Andrew Tate and so on and so forth, who've been able to influence young men. But of course, Christine Imba is critical of the masculinity gurus because in her estimation, they promote a narrow and an aggressive, quote unquote, toxic form of masculinity, right? And it's going to have a negative impact on the young men that it's supposed to, supposedly is supposed to have a positive impact on, okay? So she also talks about how, like, in discourses about masculinity in the academy and in progressive circles, there's a reluctance of women and men in those kind of spaces. I would say the neoliberal upper middle class left, there's a reluctance for them to talk about masculinity in any positive regard, okay? So there's a prevalence of negative narratives around it, toxic. You got the Me Too movement. You have Say Her Name. I mean, the idea is that there's something wrong inherently with the way masculinity is performed, okay? So most of the people in these kind of circles, they lack the ability to acknowledge, or at least they don't have a will to acknowledge men's issues and the unique kind of challenges that men face. So then she says, well, because of this, there's a need for a positive vision related to masculinity. We have to find some way of providing for what is lacking in these progressive discourses, right? So then she says, well, we need to start to redefine what masculinity is. There has to be a new positive vision of masculinity, and older men and society are going to have to try to help create this vision, right? And there's a lot of other things that are there, but I think that's the basic gist of it, okay? That's the basic gist of her article.
Okay, so, here we go. I'm back.
Okay, cool. So I just wanted to give. So I kind of filled in loosely some of the contents of the article that it was that she wrote.
Yeah.
To give them some sort of preliminary guide on the kind of discourse that she put forth in the article. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And let me give somebody a visual. Let me see. Christine Ember is her name. I'm pretty sure. If I look it up, I want them to be able to see this. Men are lost. Here's a map out of the wilderness. And I think your question is a valid one. It's a legitimate question. Like, why are you talking to all these white dudes about masculinity? Like,
Yep.
Like why is it that like we have to? Now it's time to really actually have this conversation. But black men have been in crisis related to this issue for quite a bit of time, and nobody was interested in having a conversation with us about it. But it's now time to have a conversation with these white guys because it's impacting and having an effect on them.
Right. So I just have to ask why it is she has sought out all these people, especially in an age where DEI is a watchword.
Diversity,
Where is the
equity,
diversity?
inclusion.
Where is the diversity of opinion and thought in reaction to what this lady has written? Where is the diversity with regard to the men that she talks to? Where is it?
Well, my guess is that she's trying to market to a larger audience. It's not really that important. She probably doesn't want to racialize the issue, or the racialization of the issue is something that she might feel is going to take away from the whole conversation about men in general. I'm just trying to be charitable, okay? But it could be like Jason F says. Maybe she's looking for a white husband and having trouble finding suitable partners related to this crisis in masculinity, or because like a lot of men are lost and there aren't any positive conceptions of or characterizations or models of masculinity that they can bind to in order to kind of help satisfy what her her needs are in a mate.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming that might be. I don't know. I can't. I would have to see more of what she has to say, and that's the reason why we're going to go through this again.
I did an interview. I sent this to you right before we went live. I did an interview back in 2021 with another card-carrying black feminist. Her name is Nicole Young, and of course, as I had suspected, she completely misrepresented our interview, which wound up in print in Elle magazine in January of 2022. So I wisely recorded the whole thing and released the recording to the public the same day that the article finally dropped. And it's like night and day. And I suspect that many of these black feminists don't want to talk to brothers, particularly in the era of the black manosphere, because they really don't have anything to counter it with. I find that lots of these ladies like talking to white folks in general because they're not going to get that iron sharpening iron that they're going to get with brothers like us. So they kind of assiduously avoid us. I've noticed that about black feminists. They assiduously avoid the black manosphere. When Kevin was alive, Kevin Samuels, when he was alive, black feminists were oddly quiet. In the 3 years that he pretty much reigned supreme, if you will, they were very silent. And on the day he died, here they come out of the woodwork.
But it's easier to talk to white dudes than it is to talk to black men, because we black men got a lot of fucking grievances to address, and they don't want to have to deal with those grievances. And then they don't want to have to actually be held accountable, because white men don't really know how, quite frankly, don't know how the average black woman really is behind closed doors.
Right.
Whereas black men actually do, because they're our mothers and our sisters and our daughters. So we know, okay? But this woman here, though, is not an ADOS woman, which, for all intents and purposes, she comes from a different cultural, background. There's a different set of norms and values that her parents may have that exist apart from that of, the average black American family. So the dynamics are going to be different. Her interaction with white people is going to be a little bit different than the average ADOS person's interaction. It's just going to be different because it's a different set of circumstances. Now, not to say that Africa doesn't have its issues with colonialism and white supremacy, because I believe that it does. Okay.
Right.
However, things being different in different places, it's modally different. It's going to manifest in different kinds of ways. Okay. So let's just start looking at this thing, man. And then, like, if you want me to stop, or if I feel like the urge to stop, I'll stop.
Yeah, I'm going to play off of you, man, wherever you want to take it.
All right. So we just going to riff. That's all it is to it. So here we got Brad. No disrespect to him because I don't know him. So, but the whole point is we got a Brad who's about to interview this black woman. And here we go.
An article a week ago that I'm guessing you didn't intend or didn't expect to get quite as much attention as it did.
I really, really did not. I had been working on the article, Men Are Lost, for a couple of months beforehand, and I knew that there was sort of growing discussion about the crisis of men in general. I'd read Richard Reeves' book. I've been following Scott Galloway and others on their podcasts, but it seems like the piece was almost the permission that some people needed to finally talk about the issue out in the open. And they were like really surprised to see it in a mainstream publication too. And also at length. I will admit that it is quite long. But I've been really excited by the response.
I think the reason that it needed to be so long is because having this discussion is so far away from the typical cultural zeitgeist that you have to take people there one step at a time. Richard Reeves talks about this. He has to prostrate himself on we're not saying that women shouldn't have their focus on them, and we are not trying to take away any, and we must remember that
and that's the one thing I don't like about the kind of conversations that we're having related to this. It's like you almost have to tiptoe in order to have the discussion in the first place.
And what's interesting about that is that we brothers ain't gonna do that. We're not gonna do that. We're just gonna have the conversation and let the chips fall where they may. It's going to be a very muscular type of conversation. It's going to be loud. It's going to be raucous. Boys will be boys. We don't qualify it. We just have the conversation. Let's go. Let's get it.
And look, let me just say this, man, Emmanuel, bro. This is by stating facts and making it apparent that like African immigrants are different than African Americans in terms of their experiences with white supremacy. It needs to be. It just has to be stated. I mean, otherwise, we're fucking sitting here playing games and lying. And first and foremost, I'd like to say this, and I dare you, as an African, to demonstrate to the fucking contrary that I'm lying about this. You motherfuckers got tribalism in your own goddamn continent.
Yeah. I was about to say the same thing. My understanding is that there's quite a few tribal internecine issues.
The Hootsies and the fucking Tootsies, nigga. If you want to start talking about like, oh, well, here the motherfucker, y'all anti-African amongst your own fucking goddamn continental goddamn residents. Don't come to me with this anti-African shit until there's peace in Africa and all you motherfuckers are united. Don't come to me with that fuck shit, nigga. Don't come to me with that bullshit. Because in spirit, I'm Pan-Africanist. But don't come to me with that fuck nigga shit. Y'all ain't united over in that bitch.
It's interesting that Emmanuel hasn't asked, as a fellow continental African, to Miss Imba. It's interesting that he hasn't asked, well, why aren't you talking to the brothers? Instead, he's talking to us, saying that we're anti-African, instead of asking why his fellow continental African sister isn't talking to other brothers about the state of masculinity in the United States. I find that interesting.
Bruh, I'm just saying, to state the facts, there are first wave diasporas. Any fucking African that's a scholar could tell you this shit. And I have been to conferences with Africans talking about Africa and how Africa can progress. And how Africa can move forward and actually, usher itself into a better kind of state. Like with motherfuckers from different parts, from Nigeria, Liberia, Kenya, different places, Lagos, all over the motherfucking place, man. Different universities in Africa. And people who are like professors here who are Africans. I've been to these conferences, bro. Having these conversations. And the reality is, we're not trying to debunk, to derogate anybody who's African. That's not me, okay? All I'm saying is there are differences between Native Africans and African Americans that's marked by historical experiences, man. And it's different. Or circumstances. It's fucking different.
Right. And we didn't say anything about, African folk being bad. We just said it was different. That's all it was.
And you got different cultures in Africa. This should be fucking apparent. You got different countries and cultures in Africa. And one of the main fucking reasons why slavery was even able to fucking exist in and of itself was because you niggas over there was fighting amongst each other, motherfucker. Now I'm being ignorant because you want to start talking shit about how lame we are. The lame shit that your ancestors was doing over there and mine too. Because we all got the same ancestral motherfucking markers and genetics. The lame shit y'all fighting with each other created the conditions where these motherfucking crackers was able to walk in there and do whatever the fuck they wanted to do. That's just the fucking facts. Now tell me I'm wrong. If you want to start doing some sidebar shit on some African shit, now I told you everybody in this space already knows I'm Pan-Africanist and they don't like that. They think I be on some African Babel shit. But don't come to me and tell me the problems inherited. You got problems with your own goddamn people in your own fucking continent. Because Africa is not united.
Far from it.
So having said all that shit, I'm ready to progress through this motherfucking interview, bro. I don't want, cause you know how I get upsetting. I know you done heard my show before.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Emmanuel's asking in the chat room, why would I expect a written for the WAPO to talk to the manosphere? Why not? Isn't that what journalists do? Is they go out and talk to the various people on the various sides of a story? And that I thought that was journalism 101.
The reason it's odd is because white men are not the only ones talking about or having discussions about masculinity in this culture and in this society. There's a long history of black men having conversations in this regard as well. And I guarantee you, if you read Richard Reeves' book or Galloway's book, they're going to talk about the dismal state of affairs that a lot of black men are in. So why hasn't she said anything about Tommy Curry's work? That motherfucker won an American Book Award.
There it is.
No word from him. But see, because I'm going to tell you why. Because it implicates black feminism as not being the correct approach to have a conversation about it. So all of this, we got to sidestep. We won't say this about women. Now, Curry's coming out directly and saying a lot of shit that these women are saying, the black feminists are saying about masculinity, particularly about black masculinity, is frankly, it's just fucking wrong. And it borrows from white racism in order to try to give an explanation or an account of the behavior of black men.
There it is.
But anyway, man, let's move forward with this, man.
Okay.
Problems of the LGBT trans community are also... And finally, after we've gone through this big rigmarole, we can actually get to the conversation of talking about men. So there is no such thing as having a short article about the crisis of modern men, because it leaves so many holes that people who want to interpret it in an ungenerous light are just immediately going, oh, so you think that such and such. It's like, no, obviously not.
Yeah, you have to leave space for all of the caveats and the not necessarily shout outs to different groups, but and we're acknowledging that this kind of man and that kind of woman, et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, it was.
In other words, a lot of people perceive this as a zero-sum game. If you're pro-man, then you're anti-woman.
Correct. And she does say that. She does say that in the interview, to be fair. She does say that. So yeah, you're right.
But let's keep pushing.
Also long, for me at least, and honestly, it was longer. My editors did cut it down because there are just so many different threads that are coming together in this question. Another columnist at the Post wrote to me and she was like, you know, it almost feels like you could draw a dotted line from just like this question of what's happening with men to kind of everything that's happening in our moment, whether it's like politics or religion or like all these different trends. So there are just so many kind of angles to this question and sources of discontent and maybe solutions that it's hard to fit it into one piece. I guess that's why Richard wrote a book.
What is happening with men nowadays?
And look, I mean, do you see the fucking, like, the irony of all this?
I do.
You got a white man sitting there talking to a black woman who's not a fucking man, by the way.
And he's not an American. He's a Brit.
Asking what the fuck is going on with men. Like, what? If I'm gonna say this, right? During the feminist movement, right? Did women come to men to ask them what's going on with women?
Absolutely not. Exactly. And I keep going back to the DEI piece because I'm highlighting the hypocrisy. A major plank in what it is that I do, my raison d'etre, one of them, is to point out the inherent contradictions and biases and just flat out rank hypocrisy of the left in its varying permutations. So, you know, the left in terms of what we're talking about right now, black feminism, white feminism, and, you know, progressiveness, wokeism, all of this stuff, just to show you the hypocrisy of it. You cannot prize experience, lived experience, but then don't go to that lived experience to discuss a American problem. And as we all agree, if there is a problem with masculinity in the United States, wouldn't black men be at ground zero? And if not, why not? And why don't we engage with that?
Look, the first question that has to be asked is, did women actually change society for the better? Or, like, in terms of like women being able to do what men did that create a net improvement in the quality of America for everyone? Like, have they changed the basic structure of the culture, or did they just, like, there's a concept in colonialism that basically says something to this effect, right? Just putting black people in slots that were, you know, once held by white people is not going to change the justice outcome in like a post-colonial culture. All you're gonna do is just have black people doing the same shit that white people were doing. Or if it's an Asian, you know, post-colonial society, it's gonna be the similar, okay? So like just putting in black faces or, you know, yellow or brown faces in positions that were traditionally held by white folks is not gonna subsequently change or substantively change the colonial conditions itself.
Yeah, I believe Frantz Fanon talked about that, putting a black face on white power. I believe he said that.
Precisely. So the whole idea is that why would it be the case that putting women in slots that were traditionally held by men lead to a net improvement if the society was already unjust? If you already characterized it as being unjust, well, why would just putting like token women in these slots all of a sudden change everything? I don't, that's the inherent problem. And initially, you know how I approach this situation. I approach the situation like this. I think that the civil rights movement was hijacked by white women who were already powerful. They were part of the colonial movement. They were part of, which was genocidal and annexed Native American land, or, you know, whatever the case may be. I think it also was the case that they were the main participants in slavery because they owned slaves as white women. They were part of the segregation project and the Jim Crow project, which was a terroristic project primarily, you know, levied against black men.
Correct.
Okay, which was predicated upon violence and torture and intimidation. Okay. And they just basically said, fuck it. Whatever the civil rights has to offer, we want it for ourselves. We want it. And so now you get all of these improvements for women, and then now it's opened up pathways, because when you introduce sex, it left open a door for sexuality to be put into the spot, right? So these are women who already, in my opinion, they had access to wealth related to their family networks. Okay, if you're a white woman and you got a rich ass white husband or a rich ass white daddy, you have access to capital.
Right.
Okay, it just is what it is. So it became, I think that the left, and this is why I left you, I gave you some preliminary remarks about how to focus on this from my perspective, okay? Mm-hmm. So the left has went to identity politics and recognition-based politics, and not the true kind of politics I think that the left needs to be cognizant of, or that it needs to be rooted in. It's about recognition of identity groups based on sex, race, or gender, and it's not dealing with like the traditional left. The thing that was the cornerstone of it from the beginning, with the New Deal, which is economic justice for everybody.
Right.
Okay. Which, if that were the case, then I think that the left would be much stronger and would be in a better position than it is now, and wouldn't have to deal with so many absurdities. Like right now, we're dealing with the fact of what's a man for real? Right. I don't give a fuck, man. These are stupid issues. Is that a real man or a real woman? Of course, that's not a real fucking woman.
Well, the reason why we have to ask these, what we have to really ask is, why is the left so kind of hamstrung by all this? And I argue the main reason why is because they are unable to meaningfully address these questions. They can't, not without alienating, a major portion of its base, doing anything to assist men in any programmatic way. Think of time past, like the GI Bill or the New Deal, stuff like that. Anything along those lines will severely alienate a lot of women. They will see it, and you said it earlier, they will see it in zero-sum terms, and therefore will pretty much, throw a spanner in the works and clog the whole machine up. And this is where the American left, the Democrat Party, and other permutations of it, they're pretty much hamstrung. They're paralyzed into this, and it's easier for them to talk about what is a woman and all this woke stuff instead of really rolling up their sleeves and assisting men where it matters, because it'll piss the women off.
But even beyond that, I'd like to argue that another reason why the left doesn't want to deviate from the script that they're on right now is because the politics of tokenism is not really costly. I mean, think about it. How much does it cost the left to put a bunch of trans women, say, for example, in positions of political power, who really are not really actually trying to buck the system? They're not trying to, challenge corporate America or challenge, the tax-based system or anything. I mean, they're preserving the neoliberal system. But if you want to talk about racial justice, then you're going to have to talk about economic justice in conjunction with it. And that's costly.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's going to require some redistribution. Or if you start talking about poverty and things like this, it's going to be different than just token-based politics, which is what the left is comfortable with. Oh, well, we got a few darkies here, we got a few gay people there, we got a few, it's all about representation and acknowledgement of identity. But at some point, it has to be something more than that, because that's not really anything. That's it's based on corporate-backed and government-backed patronage that doesn't do anything for the masses of persons who are subjected to conditions that which lead, to degradation and marginalization in relation to income or wealth building or housing or employment, right? So we're not even talking about these issues. We're just constantly talking about identity shit. And it's milquetoast, if you ask me. It's a movement away from what's more important. And what's more important is ensuring that everybody has access to insurance. Everybody, okay? Whether they're male or female, whether they're white or black, whether they're straight or gay. I don't give a fuck if you acknowledge me or if you like me or not, if I got a cool place to stay and if I get sick, I can get access to health care. Fuck all the rest of it.
Right.
But we're focused on like who's seen, who's not seen, who's centered, who's not centered. I don't give a fuck about all that. Give me the money, man. Give me the resources. Fuck all this honor and this acknowledgement. I don't need that. I mean, to a certain extent, you do need it. I mean, like to be acknowledged as a citizen. So I think that the civil rights movement was, to some degree, necessary. But like, that's why I showed this video not too long ago on MLK. And in the video, he was saying how the first part of the civil rights movement was the easy part. The recognition part, in terms of the law, was the easy part.
Right.
But the more difficult part was trying to make sure that black folks had access to the same kind of resources as white folks. That's going to be the more difficult part.
Well, we know what happened to him after he said that.
Oh yeah, death. But let's move through more of this, man. I'm gonna play bigger chunks of it because.
Well, we throw around the phrase "the crisis of masculinity," but I actually do think that there is a crisis. I mean, explaining it out is also a long process too, because again, so many factors. But basically, we can start by saying that society has changed a lot over the past 30 to 40 years. And many of those challenges have been great for some groups, for women especially, but they have not necessarily been so great for men, especially working class men. But men of all kinds seem to be feeling a sort of malaise. I mean, we can tick off a couple of statistics, right? When it comes to education, first, women were finally allowed to go to college, which is great. Very supportive of that. But right now, in most colleges, we're seeing that women, outnumber men hugely. For every 100 undergraduate degrees, bachelor's degrees that women get, men only get 74. And, we saw a huge wave of kind of college dropouts, basically during the COVID-19 pandemic. When you look at the data, 70% of those who just sort of like gave up and left school were men. You can look at health statistics. So, we've talked about deaths of despair, deaths from suicide, alcohol-induced illness, or drug overdose. 3 out of 4 deaths of despair are men. You can talk about, wages and workplace achievement. So wages have stagnated for men since basically the 1970s, either stagnated or fallen for all men, but the men at, the top of the economic ladder. And I think that this has just huge ramifications for how men feel about their place in the world, or rather don't feel about their place in the world. Women are thriving. The economy is moving away from sort of labor-intensive jobs towards jobs that reward soft skills and social skills and credentials. And many men are feeling a little bit lost, like they are not sure what role they play, especially when, there are these kind of traditional archetypes that men used to play in our society of, protector, provider, especially. And now 50% of women say they make as much as or more than their partner. Women can have children by themselves through artificial reproductive technology. And then, of course, the LGBTQ movement has achieved more acceptance in society, but it also seems to have kind of made the question of gender even more unclear. If you can change your gender, if sex doesn't really mean anything, what does it mean to be a man, actually? And so a lot of young men especially are feeling, as I said, lost, like they don't know where to fit. And they're kind of looking for role models of what a man should be or could be in this moment, and coming up short, except for some pretty bad examples.
So there we go. Pretty bad examples. So of course, Jordan Peterson's going to be a pretty bad example. Andrew Tate's going to be a pretty bad example. Anybody in the black manosphere is going to be considered to be, or people in this kind of sector, they're going to be considered to be bad examples.
And I imagine Dr. Tommy Curry is also included in that.
I would have to see, because Tommy Curry, I wouldn't. First of all, Tommy Curry is not a red pillar or anything like that. And so that's why I always try to keep him away from the space, because I know who he is, and he's married, and even though he doesn't take shit, he's not like in this space and holds the viewpoints of most of the men in this space. Okay, but he will let feminists know, like, look, the sort of ideology that you hold on to is not based upon any empirical reality. You're just moralizing based upon categories established during the civil rights movement, and you're doing you're doing anachronistic kind of like reinterpreting of history through the concepts that you've developed, contemporarily, and you can't read history like that. It's bad historiography. Okay, so that's what Curry's going to say, and that like a lot of what you promote and that you push for politically, because it's based upon a false reading of history and a misunderstanding of empirical reality. A lot of it is going to be naive or just dead out wrong. It's not going to be a practical solution to what's actually going on amongst black folks. Okay, so that's Curry to me. I mean, in a short, in terms of a short assessment of his critiques of some of what's going on in the contemporary academic left. Mm-hmm. But I think that because women have, for the most part, been able to be introduced via the Civil Rights Act into positions that they hadn't, been able to be introduced into before. And I don't think we can put the genie back in this bottle. Right. But the point is they've begun to terraform masculinity in general, right, as something that's toxic, malevolent, problematic. I mean, you should read Andrea Dworkin, man, or like Catherine McKinnon, or Ellen Pence. I mean, these people have a disdain.
Another one, yeah.
I mean, they have a disdain for what they consider to be something that's malevolent and toxic, which is, like men desiring to control and have power over women. Now, I just don't like the way that they bifurcate reality. I mean, they consistently say they want to, do away with dualisms and dichotomies, but I think that they reify these dichotomies, in the way that they go about, characterizing or essentializing what men are and what masculinity is and how women are and like what femininity is. I just think they reify what they say they try to do away with. But let me acknowledge some people really quickly. Yeah. Salty Balls, but not, hold on, there was one guy before him. David White said, supporting the G with the PhD, just done spending my day rock climbing and hiking. Black men, please stay active for sure. Shout out to him, man. Appreciate that. Shout out to Salty Balls. He says she's an excellent case as to why the blue-collar brothers need to become blue book gentlemen. Let them ACs burn out, let them pipes burst, let them weeds grow, and get the fuck out of here. They'll learn. Remember they indie. In other words, I mean, like, and I think that, I know you've heard of Camille Paglia before, right?
Indeed. She's a hero of mine.
And so one of the things she says is like the infrastructure of this country is preserved by working class men.
Correct. She referred to us as the invisible soldiers in the invisible army. Yep.
Yeah, and so the idea is that, like, while you continue to bitch about your bourgeois issues, they're like people who are actually working to make your life possible, and you're not even cognizant of what's going on in their lives on a day-to-day basis, and you continuously, derogate, you stereotype and characterize these guys. But they're like the army that keeps this whole thing going.
There was a really bad storm earlier this week, and it knocked out power in my neighborhood. Storm drains was really flooded real bad, and the lines are running underground, so it knocked everything out. I was without power. I just got power back earlier today. The local, I'm in Pennsylvania, so they call it PECO. They were out there, 3 trucks, digging up the ground, taking out the old lines, replacing it with new lines. Take a wild guess who was doing the work.
Men, working class men.
In nearly 90-degree heat.
For sure. Look, I used to be a construction worker, bro. You know,
yeah, I was a skilled tradesman for 22 years.
You know, like I did like structural reinforcing and ornamental ironwork. You know, and rigging. You know what I mean? Like, you know, removing structural and like reinforcing steel off of trucks and shit like that. You know, but That's hard ass work, bro.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it ain't easy. You know
And
what I mean?
dangerous work too.
Oh, hell yeah, you can lose you can lose a finger.
Yep, lose a limb, lose your life.
Your teeth.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, like you can fall. They call it going in the hole.
Yep.
Like you know, so but I enjoy the work. You know, but it is demanding. It's back-breaking work. You know, and it doesn't stop. The only thing that stops it is rain or snow.
That's right.
Otherwise, you're out there busting your ass. It is what it is. The heat in and of itself is not a deterrent.
No.
Okay. So anyway, Janfar777 says the movement away from hard labor is artificial. Production power funnels into hard power and military power. The propping of women is built into a neoliberal glass floor. And I think that there's some elements of truth to that. I think that what's happened is, like, men have been shamed to death. Like, so you talk about shame, blame, and explain, which I think, you know, is really actually a variant of Kevin Samuels' shame, insults, guilt, and need to be right.
I agree.
It's not like all of this conversation surrounding shame is not new, specifically because, again, there's precursors to SBE, which is the sign language, okay? But I think women have shamed men to death.
Pretty much.
Okay, and so now it doesn't work anymore. It's not effective because everything is reduced into or down to, well, if you critique us, then you hate us.
Pretty much.
I mean, you're critiquing us, but you don't hate us. You're telling us where we're deficient, but you don't hate us, right? But you can do it. But as soon as we tell you where you're deficient or tell you what we got a problem with, now all of a sudden, oh, you hate women. Oh, you don't want to be accountable. Oh, you don't want to take responsibility.
Right. This is the reason why I say it's the left has really backed itself into a corner because of what you stated. You can't be okay using shame language on the men and then turn around and cry SBE when it's on the women. You can't have it both ways.
But that's how it's done. And I think it's some bullshit. You know, in my BGS voice, but let's keep pushing.
Which I also talk about in the piece.
Yeah, there's an interesting 1-2 punch, I think, that has kind of happened. The first being a structural change that has disadvantaged young men, or at least meant that they have been able to take advantage of their talents quite as much. You mentioned we've gone from a brawn-based to a brain-based economy. Credentialism is much more important now. Conscientiousness skews female. Girls are better at sitting still through the time that they're teenagers and adolescents and remembering to get their homework in on time. 2 to 1, basically, females to males, completing a 4-year US college degree. It gets even worse if you look at master's level. 7 times more men dropped out of college during COVID than women did. So, you know, all of these things on top has created a structural environment in which men aren't exactly thriving. And then the sort of second punch has been a loss culturally, I think, of their position of what does it mean to be a man? You know, if gender is up for debate and if your biological sex and the person that you show up as in the world is available to be discussed, then what does it mean to be a man? Like, literally that question. You know, there's a very famous documentary called What is a Woman? But what is a man is an equally valid question when we're talking about the roles of men. And it's not just, I am a man who has this sort of physical, biological manifestation. It's the symbolic representation of what does it mean? How should I show up? What are the archetypes and the virtues and the values that I should rely on? What are the things that when times get tough, I should believe in myself? You know, what is greater than me? The grand narrative that explains my life as a male. And it's that 1-2 that I think has caused a lot of men to feel very dispossessed. They feel like they're not really getting much sympathy. I think you have this really, really great quote where you say, many young men feel their difficulties are often dismissed out of hand as whining from a patriarchy that they don't feel a part of. And it definitely seems like modern men are sort of being made to pay for the sins of the advantages of their fathers and grandfathers, whilst not really feeling like they get any themselves now.
Yeah, that was a big part of what I wanted.
And look, man, that's a hell of a thing right there, because first of all, you know, like if you talk about black men, we never were able to participate in the patriarchy at all to begin with, right? So the whole narrative doesn't really even work for us. And then I think also what's missing here is this idea that or the understanding that all men, which I think is inaccurate, that like all men benefit from the patriarchy equally. You know what I'm saying? Like all men like sort of are at the top of the food chain related to the hierarchical structure of society. Like they all like were just balling out of control, and like all the women were like just subjected to hardships and drudgery and toil. Like that's not how this shit works, man.
Yeah. You just misrepresented everything, of course. Yeah.
Let me
go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that, you know, the history of patriarchy is such that like white women have been able to, or women in general in different societies have been able to enjoy their accoutrements of it if they're part of the elite classes. There's never been a situation where, you know, men just qua being men are able to enjoy, you know, just the patriarchy just because they're men. That's not how patriarchy works, man. It's not how it works. But go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just simply saying that a lot of these this whole discussion is really it's so badly framed that it's not even funny. To his credit, Scott Galloway, who is mentioned in this discussion, he has said what I'm about to say. He argues that we need, and going back to the GI Bill and World War II and that sort of thing, he said we need a massive government intervention. But he understands why it's not going to happen, because the left cannot do it without alienating women. You just can't do it. These problems are easily solved. You want men to be viable? Give them jobs. Send them to school. Send them to stuff to make them really productive. That requires, like you said earlier, it's going to cost you something. Billions. But women don't want it. And the left is beholden to these women. So as long as that's the case, there will be no help.
But the odd thing is that women do want it. They do and they don't want it. And the reasons are clear to me. I mean, they don't want to be put in a position where they feel like they have to be dependent on men. But if they want to be dependent on men, like if they desire to be a housewife, they want to be able to have a man who actually can fulfill the roles of traditional masculinity.
Right.
So that's the dilemma, okay?
And Mark was talking about this earlier, Marcus Aurelius. He was talking about this earlier. A lot of ladies really, especially in our community, they really want a lifestyle. Kevin, shout out to him. He proved this repeatedly. Marcus Aurelius is right to point out that a lot of ladies, their subsistence day-to-day needs can be met by Uncle Sam. And in our community, let's face it, that's the case. All the way up to and including school. I mean, Biden is, trying like the devil to try to get school debt relief pushed through. That's going to affect Black women disproportionately because they carry a disproportionate amount of school debt. So really what they want is a lifestyle. Well, how do you expect to get that lifestyle without brothers earning a significant amount of money?
And look, so let's look at some of the stuff that's being said in the chat. Like, so Brother Blackout 300 says the following: trying to blame this on the left is not very politically sound. But I mean, you have to ask the question: was it the traditional right that actually, did this? I think to a certain extent, yeah, they're partially responsible, because I think that what they did was they tried to hijack the civil rights movement. I think the right and the left were both complicit in this. Okay, because the civil rights movement was actually for Negroes, wasn't for white women, it wasn't for gays. But the biggest, demographic that enjoyed the accoutrements that came from it were white people, whether they gay or women or whatever the case may be. They're the ones that were able to enjoy it. Okay, so what was supposed to be acknowledgement and then, we'll put it this way, reparation according to distribution, it just stays stuck catatonically in recognition. Now, are a lot of women inside of the workforce and being educated now? Yeah. But who's upholding the system? I do think that Obsidian is right, that the left is the party that's holding it up, that's continuing to preserve it. And, I always show this one little, let me see if I can find it, brand. Let me go to these videos here. Here's Mrs. Griffith, Martha Griffith, I think is her name, in 71, the year I was born. telling you like how all of this came to pass.
Most important changes that have taken place in respect to the status of women since you've been in Congress.
Well, I think perhaps the most important change was the one that added sex to the bill of 1964. This bill was drafted really to help Negroes. Now, it wasn't clear. It would have meant that Negro women would have been given rights that were not available to white women. Therefore, we added sex. It is my belief that the drafters had never had assumed that no women would get any rights. So that I think both white and black women were helped by the bill.
So I show that to show, look, a lot of people tend to think that, like, okay, it's the left, the right. Look, white people are white people, man, whether they're left or right. That's just how I perceive it. You know what I'm saying? So you got a contingency of white leftists who I think, they might, put on like they're progressive and all of this. But like, I try to tell people, like, how many of them motherfuckers you see in the hood? Like, how many black friends do they have in the hood? Like, do you really actually see them occupying spaces where there are a large number of blacks who live in concentrated disadvantage? I don't think so.
As a matter of fact, Elijah Anderson talks about this in a really good book he wrote back in the 1990s called Street Rise. He talks about that. He talks about how gentrification, a lot of your yuppie whites, if you will, your progressive whites, they don't want to live around black people if they can help it. And when I say black people, let's be clear. I ain't talking about just Big Booty Brenda and Pookie and Ray Ray and Sharkeisha. I'm talking about their yuppie, their buppy counterpart. They don't want to live around them either. He talks about it in the book. So he's a well-known black academic at the time. He was at the University of Pennsylvania, but now he's at Yale. So
yeah, Elijah Anderson is the guy who wrote. He talks about nigger moments. I don't know if you ever. Yeah, he talks
about that in the book, in Streetwise. But he also is best known for his work, Code of the Street. Excellent book.
Correct. Yeah, and if you don't know, Code of the Street is the inspiration behind the TV series The Wire.
Oh wow, really? I didn't know that.
Yes, sir. I had the opportunity to have lunch with him on a couple of occasions and kind of poke his brain and shit and talk to him straight up. You know what I mean? Like about some of the shit that he was thinking, like when he wrote Code of the Streets and like conversations surrounding Skip Gates, Oprah Winfrey, and how they they've had their nigger moments. Okay.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So he, just an all around cool guy. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but at any rate, my viewpoint on it is that the civil rights movement was hijacked by white folks. And at this time, you got to be understanding of the fact that the Democratic Party was like Dixiecratic, okay? It was a Democrat from Virginia named Howard Smith who was the principal person who introduced sex into the Civil Rights Act. He's the one responsible for it, okay? So just to let you know, I mean, if you start talking about left and right and left, the parties, like, they switch lanes, okay? They kind of, move in and out. There's no like hard line demarcation between them at certain points in history. So,
well, I would say respectfully, I think that's not true. I think look at Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade is a major wedge issue between the left and the right, and it's overturning last year, I believe. It's overturning. It really set off the battle lines between the left and the right. And you mentioned Josh Hawley earlier. He's on the right, and he's written a book about masculinity and all the rest of it. And I wrote to you in an email in the run-up of all this. The right has more simpatico with the manosphere in its various permutations than the left ever has. So in a very real sense, even though the right has its problems too, the right has its problem. And as I wrote to you, I'll tell your audience, the right's problem here, Josh Hawley, Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, Steve Crowder, et cetera, for that matter, Jason Whitlock, et cetera, et al. Their problem is they cannot accept female nature unfettered by any type of constraints, unrestrained hypergamy, unrestrained base sexual impulses on the part of women. They can't accept that. Their argument, Richard Reeves, he's another fellow Brit over in the UK, but now he's at the AEI here in the United States. These guys think, Josh Hawley and all these guys think that if you just kind of adopt a Dudley Do-Right, Clark Kent, circa 1950s Americana masculinity, that everything would just kind of go your way. And if you do something like that, you will create you think Elliot Rodger was bad? You think these incels are bad? You create these type of guys where they'll get chewed up and spit out by the city girls of America, and you will create a legion of incels and Elliot Rodgers.
No, well, you know, I'm gonna tell you what. The reason I say what I say about the left and the right is because, like, if you know anything about the history of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, at one point, the Republican Party was the party for the freedom, or that fought for the freedom of black folks. Okay. Now the Democratic Party is kind of like the party of black folks, which it shifted during the 60s and the 70s. But I mean, I don't want to go into the history of all of that right this moment because it would be rather lengthy. But the point I'm trying to make is that you still have elements of Dixiecratic, like Southern white Democrats. Like Bill Clinton is an example of a white Southern Democrat.
Right.
Or like, say, for example, who was the protege of Biden? He's kind of like his mentor. I forgot the little racist.
Oh, you talking about Byrd?
Strom Thurmond.
Oh, Strom Thurmond. Okay.
Right. White Democrat, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, but like a lot of them people switched to the Republican Party during the 60s, 70s, and the 80s. Mm-hmm. So the parties, all I'm saying is the parties kind of flipped in terms of their position on race and their position on a host of issues. But,
right.
But at the end of the day, do I believe that the right is more sympathetic to men's issues? Only insofar as it holds on to traditional values associated with, the interaction between men and women.
Correct. And that's the reason why in my book, that's the reason why the subtitle reads, the Book of Obsidian, and the subtitle is A Manual for the 21st Century Black American, because I saw the need that the old rules that our dad and granddad operated under are null and void today. We're dealing with a different type of circumstances. We're dealing with a different type of women. We need a new skill set and new rules of engagement. That was the whole point of my writing an over 450-page book. I am not the gentleman of the past. I am a gentleman for a new era.
Yeah, and I think there's another book you might want to read it. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's called The Anatomy of Female Power.
Oh, yes.
That's a good book. So,
yes.
And he was ahead of his time when he wrote it. I think he published it somewhere in the 90s or something like this.
That's correct.
But his idea is that, look, you got different types of men. You got machos who are regressive. And I think you're talking about, like men who want to go back to that era. I think that era is lost. Okay. So, your Clark Kent got type, rustic, dispassionate men who are just like, like doing everything they can for Martha. That shit ain't gonna work no more. Okay. Yeah. But it's exploitative from the beginning. Like, he would argue like, look, all that is just a woman extracting resources from a man, living a life of leisure at his dime. That's not really a satisfactory life for a man anyway, even though a lot of men want to go back to it. And a lot of people in this space are pushing that narrative. Well, you be a macho, be a real man, and being a real man is like being that protector, provider male. I just don't know how viable that is. Yeah, exactly. Then he says they're mushos, men who just like, for the most part, they just like, well,
Not only will I do it for you, yes, I'll do it for you.
Those type of guys, you know what I'm saying? Or
I do anything for you.
Yeah.
Those type of guys.
Yeah.
Which, it's not gonna work either, okay? Then he says where there are men who are masculinists. We can't put the genie back in the bottle, okay? Can't get women out of the workforce. You're not gonna be able to get them out of education. But you have to treat them just like you would treat anybody else. You're gonna have to start demanding, like you said, that they provide some sort of value and that there's something reciprocitous in the exchange, between them. Like if there's a contract that's gonna be drawn between you and a woman, you gotta be able to benefit from it. How is it that you can do so?
That's right. A fair exchange is no robbery.
But we don't even know how to begin to ask for the exchange because the initial, I guess, setting for us is to just do shit. Hey, you need this, baby? You want me to do that for you, sugar? But there's not a corresponding desire to do the same thing for men, like, because it's beneath women now. Like, I remember not too long ago, Destiny's Child got cursed out and shit for doing the song "Cater to You."
That's right. That's
and
correct.
the young women were like, "What, you making that nigga a sandwich? You gonna make this? You gonna rub the nigga feet? Fuck that nigga."
Exactly. Exactly.
It's like, come on, man. Like, how can you expect? Well, let me just put it this way. One of the hallmarks of all religions is the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Right.
If you want some shit, you got to provide some shit. I mean, these are just basic principles.
That's right. But you know what?
Anybody should understand.
Well, you know, and you're right. And back in the 50s, and I'm going to keep referring back to that because that's really the Republican Party. If you think about it, it's really the 1950s. And I say, by the way, for the record, I'm a proud Black Republican, so I'm taking shots at my own party on this. And I diverge with them on many points, and this is one of them. They're the 1950s. You know, that worked back then. Dennis the Menace and My Three Sons and Ozzie and Harriet and Nat King Cole show, that worked great back then. What I say to my guys today is this. You need to go back further than the 1950s. You need to go back to Renaissance Italy. Little known guy by the name of Niccolo Machiavelli. He wrote a little book called The Prince. And in The Prince, he says that a wise prince knows when to keep his word and when not to. You are not obligated to keep your word if the circumstances under which that word was given has substantially changed. The social contract between Black women and Black men have changed. Therefore, ergo, all bets are off.
Yeah. So look, just let me ask Lamel Prince. I guess he want to hit me up on the Cash App. My Cash App, my brother, is G with a P. You see that $sign G with a PhD? That's my Cash App right there. $sign G with a PhD. That's me right there. Appreciate that, brother. But go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
No. I was just simply saying that I agree that if the state of affairs were the same as they were in the 1950s, yes, the religious precepts of Judeo-Christian society, Judaism, Christianity, Islam would prevail. I would agree with that. But we don't live in that era anymore. And what I did in my research for the book was to look at all the great men of history, and Niccolo Machiavelli is one of them that really rang out to me. Another one would be Sun Tzu in his classic text, The Art of War. And Machiavelli was right. You should not only did he say that a wise prince knows when to keep his word and when not to, he went further in saying that there are people that will, if you put yourself out there that you're going to stick to your word no matter what, they will exploit that. They know that you're going to do that, and they will exploit you for that. And what do you think is happening to a lot of Black men right now with a lot of Black women? A lot of Black women, you just got finished playing it. I'll do this for you. I'll do that for you. A lot of Black women know that. So for me, my position is once the landscape changes and the nature of the social contract changes, all bets are off.
Man, do you remember that one episode that Kevin Samuels had where some woman that called into his show and she was talking to him about how her husband got cancer and shit?
Yeah.
And she was looking for a new Zaddy or some shit like that because
correct.
The guy, you know, he got sick and all this kind of shit, man. That's crazy, bro.
Oh yeah. Now, of course, if the situation was the shoe was on the other foot, the guy would be vilified. Even though he would have just as much a legitimate out as the lady doing it in the original case, that her mate is no longer viable, that she's looking for a backup mate, which, by the way, is a scientific fact. Women are wired to always be on the lookout for backup mates, hence the term monkey branching. So that's not, that's not something that, is a red pill thing or the Black Manosphere cooked it up. That is actual science, evolutionary psychology. David M. Buss, University of Texas at Austin. Many other researchers along the same line have confirmed it. Women have evolved to seek out backup mates. So again, what happens when a man seeks a backup mate?
Oh, he's a dog. He's a pig.
Exactly.
It's yeah, that's it, man. But just with a dollar sign in front of it on Cash App, I don't know how to do that shit. I very rarely use Cash App for real. I give every now and then, but I don't know how to use that shit. I'm a troglodyte when it comes to technology, so I couldn't tell you. So, but anyway, let's move through some more of this, man.
Yeah.
Wanted to talk about in this piece, because I think another factor that's making men feel dispossessed or not sure of what they belong is that our culture has also shifted. And I think many of these shifts have been good things. Again, like it's great that we've recognized that, sexual assault is real, that you need to get consent. The Me Too movement was a good thing. It outed a lot of predators. At the same time, I think especially in media culture, and in progressive spaces, frankly, there's been this reflexive push to say, the future is female. Men suck. Like, men are garbage. Masculinity is toxic. Those are kind of acceptable things to say now. And, telling somebody that the person they are, like that they are toxic, obviously doesn't make them feel good, obviously doesn't make them feel accepted by society. And, when you say, okay, men are toxic, masculinity is toxic, what's the alternative? Like, what does a good masculinity look like? And that picture isn't really being made very clear. I mean, you look at media representations of men.
Look, let me stop this shit here. Look, at the end of the day, look, all I'm gonna say is this. This is why I say, like, masculinity has been vilified in America, but you only saw this shit arising after the Civil Rights Act, because there was money on the table. And in order to get to the money on the table, you had to have an excuse for going to get it. And the excuse is men ain't shit. And they've been holding us back. And these women weren't saying this shit like during slavery. They weren't saying this shit during some women were, okay? So like the suffragettes, they may have been saying some shit like that, okay? But like the vast majority of women, they weren't on no man bashing shit. I mean, the first wave feminists weren't, or the suffragettes, they weren't man bashing. But then the second wave feminists, they were seriously, like, they were some serious misandrists, man.
Right.
Okay, so not all of them, but like quite a few of them, right?
Oh yeah.
Emil
Paglia talks about it, yeah.
And the problem with me, the problem I have with it is this: how can you take a group of colonial, segregationist, lynching, sexual predatory white women, because they were sexual predators as well during slavery, okay? Now all of a sudden they want to talk about how they're vulnerable. Like, bitch, you were the fucking savages as far as I'm concerned. You represent to black men a threat. You start talking about Me Too, I think about Emmett Till.
Yeah.
You talk about Me Too, I think about the countless amount of men who were forced into having sexual relationships with white women, and if it was ever exposed, he'd get his nuts chopped off.
Right.
But we can't have conversations about that.
No.
In the extent to which we do, it's toxic. Oh, well, you can't really say that. And, well, you might offend the sensibilities of the good white ladies and all of that. Like, come on, man.
And here's the other thing, too, with the Me Too piece that Christine Emba mentions. What she doesn't mention is the unintended consequences of Me Too. So it's been well documented that a lot of guys on Wall Street and Silicon Valley and so forth don't want to work with women. And, people like Sheryl Sandberg of Facebook fame has been banging the drum to get guys to kind of be, mentors to women, so that they don't want to do it. And I think it's delicious myself. I think that it just goes to show how these lovely ladies don't think any further than their bra strap and looking down the road to potential unintended consequences. I tell the guys in my dojo all the time, it's never been a better time to be a skilled tradesman. You can go into business for yourself. You can go into coding, IT. You can work for yourself. You can put together your own little company. As a matter of fact, there are ways to get around the various anti-discrimination laws. If you keep your company under a certain amount of employees, you're not subject to those type of oversight rules and stuff like that. You can hire on just who you want to hire on. Read nothing but men. You don't have to hire women. You can do all kind of great stuff, and just completely sidestep all of this Me Too stuff all the way around. And this is stuff that the ladies haven't even thought about.
But beyond that, let me. If, I don't know if this is the right one or not. I think it is. So, like, look, there are articles, right? The sexual victimization of men in America, new data challenges or new data challenge old assumptions. And one of the things that's kind of like that pops out to me is that he says we use data to examine the prevailing assumption that men rarely experience sexual victimization. So to me, women have monopolized the victimization narrative. Okay?
Correct.
Everything happens to us, and like we're getting hit and we're getting raped and all of this. Like, but women are doing the same amount of hitting and raping. I mean, you know, if you want to talk about making people penetrate, you know, or penetrating men, you know, women do this shit, okay? But we don't talk about the various ways in which women are responsible or culpable for the same kind of activities that men engage in. We just say, well, they don't do it nearly as much. But if you look at the data, we concluded that federal surveys detect a high prevalence of sexual victimization among men, and in many circumstances, is similar to the prevalence found among women. We identified factors that perpetuate misperceptions about men's sexual victimization, reliance on traditional gender stereotypes, outdated and inconsistent definitions, and methodological sampling biases that exclude inmates. And Dr. Johnson talks about this all the time. He says, we recommend changes that move beyond regressive gender assumptions, which can harm both women and men. But the reality is, the harsh reality is that, like, a lot of women are doing the same kind of shit that they complain is being done to them.
Yeah.
And nobody really actually has a you know, like an open and honest conversation about it. It just seems like we just continue to, you know, just blame only men.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with men being blamed for the shit that they actually do because it's factual. Right? If men do something and a phenomena needs to be pointed to or alluded to, and culpability has to be taken up by men for having done a specific thing, or there's a certain set of phenomena that arise from their agency, they need to be called out for it. But the same thing needs to happen to women. The same thing needs to happen to them when they do the same shit. So this is why the worker Curry is important as well. Because one of the things that he pointed out was that at the same time, because to me, intersectionality was the Me Too movement before the Me Too movement, okay? And Kimberly Crenshaw wrote the paper called Mapping the Margins. And in that paper, she was essentially saying that, like, white women get covered and protected due to rape and sexual assault and battering, whereas black women, we don't get protected from that, okay? And then she goes into all of these, you know, accounts of why black women are, you know, kind of like rendered invisible in relation to these phenomena. But the funny thing is that during the same time that, like, intersectionality was being, you know, ushered in, more black men were dying from intimate partner homicide and get murdered by their wives than the other way around. And so it's like, well, how the fuck are you gonna come up with a theory underscoring how women are subjected to violence when you got a situation, like, empirically where, like, the exact opposite is occurring and nobody wants to explain it?
Yeah.
And we don't have the tools, like, we have the conceptual tools, but it's like, it's something in philosophy called inverted epistemology, where you could know, but you don't want to know.
Right.
Okay. But shout out to Lamel. Lamel Prince hit me up. He said, I sent the Green Gorilla via Cash App. Thank you, man, for that generous donation. Appreciate that, bro. Appreciate that. Thank you, man. Real talk. Give you a bond for that one. Appreciate that, man. And shout out to T Fitness for you. Appreciate you, sir, for that donation. And shout out to Anubis and John G, man. I appreciate all y'all, man. Straight up, real talk. But let me make myself bigger and let's move a little bit more through this if we can. Man, we haven't even begun to scratch the surface, like, so we might have to cut it, you know, at like maybe the 4 hour or the 4 hour,
we'll come
30
back.
minute mark.
Yeah.
And we can come back to it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I come to your channel to finish it up if you want.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be good.
Yeah, I'll do that. I think that would be the right thing to do. Okay.
Okay.
So let's go to at least 4 o'clock though.
Okay.
you know, even popular TV shows. And I feel like the most common archetype right now is like the male schlub. He lives in his mom's basement and just
Homer
smokes weed all
Simpson,
day.
Peter Griffin.
Right. Yeah, they're not like father figures that one looks up to or respects. They're sort of people you would make fun of or look down on. And I feel like this comes at, I think, the expense of a productive dialogue. Actually, it pushes men out of the conversation and opens up a space of vulnerability that, you know, is often filled by bad actors. It's also not really, I think, fair, actually. But you were going to say something.
Yeah, just that Richard Reeves again talked about this. He taught me about this over a year ago now, where he said that as soon as you throw out the term toxic masculinity, it causes so many men to just check out of the conversation. If you're going to tell me that there is something in me which is like original sin and it needs to be expunged from me, I need to be exorcised of my toxic masculinity. What do you think? What, like, you're really going to allow? You really expect men to engage in a conversation after the first thing you've done is say that a core part of them is something that's inherently toxic? And yeah, you know, putting forward the a positive view for men has been as the decrease in that has been the same, I would say, almost perfectly in line with the increase in what I would class as a patronizing view of women's success. So the difference between the two Mulan films is a perfect example of this. In the first one, she's small and not as strong, but she's crafty and she works harder and she overcomes and she uses her size to her advantage. And through hard work and determination, she tells a tale of someone with a disadvantage that overcomes it to now be as good or even better than people who had more advantages than them. You look at the most recent Mulan film and she's just born to be perfect. She's more talented. The only restriction that she ever faces is that the men don't believe in her enough and that there's some sort of oppression out there. Or the second Doctor Strange film, where the Central American daughter of a lesbian couple has the most power in the entire world, and the only reason that she doesn't have it is because she doesn't believe in herself enough. Like, that to me is not an inspiring story to tell young women either. Like, you know, we need to be able to build a society with resilient girls who have archetypes that they can look up to too, who overcame difficult things, who don't expect the world to bend to their every whim, and that if they do encounter any sort of difficulty, that this is like an aberration, that this is the sign that there's something wrong with the world. It's like, no, this is baked into what the world is. The world is a series of challenges. So I think that it's been this very interesting, like, men and women have almost sort of like passed each other and high-fived, or maybe not high-fived on the way past, where the role models for men have become increasingly less inspirational. Ostensibly, the role models for women have become more inspirational, but I don't actually think that they are. I think that it's like a very fragile, thinly veiled form of like pedestalization.
Yeah, that's such an interesting example. I mean,
do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, I do. I think that we can relate it back to Black America with the Black, you know, girls magic and Black girls rock and all that sort of thing. Very fragile. It's almost like laughable that these rickety premises are built upon, you know, with Black women being so great. And then you look at the reality, you know, Black women being the largest group of evicted American citizens, Black women being the largest, holding the largest share and proportion of school debt. You know, and it just goes right on down the line. I mean, the variance between the reality and the myth is just, it couldn't get any wider. So that speaks just right to that point.
One thing I was thinking was that, you know, like, I think that women aren't using charitable language. It's like, I talked about reciprocity earlier, and like, it's a norm of communication whereby if you're going to communicate with somebody and you're really actually having the desire to have a good faith interaction with them, you have to speak to them in language that they can accept. So, like, for example, if I'm a Blood and I'm really trying to create peace with the Crips, I can't come to the Crips calling them crabs. It's going to automatically make them put up a defense mechanism, correct?
Right.
And the same with the Crips. If they're coming to the Bloods and they call them Slavs, it's going to immediately create, you know, a blockade, or it's going to create a wall, right? Which is going to distort the communication.
Right.
If you really want to talk to men, you can't come and call them, you know, fucking toxic and shit, and how they ain't shit, And you know how they dusties and they nakers, or you know, like, I'm not saying that we don't have the same kind of issues and problems as men sometimes. We do, okay? But I mean, like, you should hear some of the language of these radical feminists. Kill men now, ask me how. You know, down with the patriarchy. Let's smash these motherfuckers. Like, come on, bro. Like, the language is a little overbearing, okay? And then not only is it overbearing, it's upheld by men. It's upheld. This shit, the only way this shit works is if men support it through policing.
Good point. Great point.
And that's the elephant in the room nobody wants to really actually talk about. Like, all of the gains that women get, they're upheld by a police state. If men don't enforce it, women go back to, if it ever was the case, which I don't believe it was, but women will go back to being barefoot and pregnant. If men say we're not upholding these laws and these policies, they're over.
Well, we have a real world example right now, and that's in Afghanistan under the Taliban. You see any feminists out there in the street protesting, talking smack?
No, not at all.
You want to know the reason why? Because the Taliban will beat you with a lead pipe. They've literally done it. They've literally, when they took over Afghanistan last year, the year before last, when the United States was pulling out, the feminists took to the streets, and the Taliban didn't shoot them, put their rifles on their back, took out a lead pipe, beat their ass. You ain't seen no feminists out there yet.
And another thing, and look, one thing that women have to be acknowledged, cognizant of, let me put it in this language, that if you begin to marginalize too many men at too large of a scale, what do men do when they feel like they're cut off from a system?
Steve Saylor, a white, very controversial writer, said something nevertheless that was very profound. When you don't make men in-laws, they become outlaws.
I mean, essentially, like, I'm not saying that it will happen immediately or that, you know, like there's an imminent threat, but I mean, like, if you marginalize too many men, now, this is not the same for women, because men are the ones who really actually are behind revolutionary action, okay? Dispossess too many men to too large a degree on too large of a scale, then, like, you're basically putting your own society in jeopardy.
Yep.
You're creating a class of malcontents.
Yep.
And this is not about women or men. I mean, this is just about being dispossessed, being pushed to the periphery and marginalized. Like, if women were pushed to the marginals, or to the margins, they spoke up for themselves, correct? So
right.
Now that men are suffering maybe even a worse plight than some women were not too long ago, because if you look at the numbers, it's fucking bad, okay? It's even worse than what it was for women when women start bitching and complaining about it, okay? So what happens when, you know, like, men, like, are absolutely dispossessed and they don't have anything to turn to?
How do you think Al Qaeda was born? How do you think the Islamic State came about?
I think this is dangerous. That's all I'm saying. I think, like, you know, not giving men a place to be. And it'd be different if it was like a feudal society or something like that. Like, people at least had a place in a society like that. You knew where you stood. You knew what your role was. If you were a pauper, you could still have a wife and have a family. Even though it might not be a wealthy family, you still had meaning to your life. The feature of a society like this is that it's difficult to find meaning and to find your way. It's like you can get lost in this shit. You know, they call it anomie in philosophy, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like not knowing where your place is, not knowing what your role is. And another thing that's different about this society than those in the past where, I mean, like, there were concretely defined roles, right? Not just male and female roles, but like just different like roles. Like, if you were a warrior, you were a warrior. If you're a medicine man, you're a medicine man. Right. You're not playing, you're not performing that role. You are that.
Right.
No, you know, it's not like, oh, you're dressing up for that when you get up to work in the morning, or you had to decide that, like, what profession out of 1,000 you're gonna pick. No, motherfucker, this is who you are, okay? And you live and die by that. Like, but this is a different, like, you know, like what happens in this country is much different, right? And it creates confusion and like uncertainty, and it creates anxiety because you don't know who the fuck you are, where you're going, or like what the meaning of your life is supposed to be. Like these kind of concerns are not like the kind of concerns that you see of people who were living like 400 or 500 years ago, even in Europe. Okay, so like this is a different kind of world we live in, but that's something to touch upon at a different time. I'm gonna start showing some more if you don't mind.
No, go right ahead.
I did a lot of interviews with young men for this piece. And one thing that a guy who I mentioned at the end of this piece, his name is Ronan Bray, said to me really stood out. You know, he was talking about role models and where he saw messages about how to be a man. And he was like, you know, I see all of this stuff for women now, like women, you can be astronauts, you can be scientists, you can be race car drivers, you can do everything. And that's really cool. But at the same time, I hear as a man, like, men, this is what you shouldn't do. Get out of the way.
Oh,
Stop
interesting.
talking over women and holding them back. But there's no like kind of positive like things that you can be for men. It seems to have all transferred. And then also, I think you're onto something too when you talk about this sort of almost thin veneer that is on some of these aspirational messages that are given to women. I think one other thing that we see in our modern moment, is an ethos of gender neutrality, an idea that actually gender doesn't matter. We shouldn't talk about it. Women can do anything that men can do. Men can do anything that women can do. Really, you don't need to be a good man or a good woman. There's no such thing. Just be a good person. We're all kind of the same. Just be a good one. And I find that rather grating because I simply don't believe that's realistic or that useful. A, most people don't want to live in an androgynous society where everyone is the same. But B, I think that there is something specific about the embodied existence of being a man or a woman. And there's lots of overlap in sort of personality traits and physical traits and things that the two sexes share. But there are also differences. And part of being a good man or a good woman, in my opinion at least, is kind of recognizing those differences and recognizing one's strengths, weaknesses, skills, etc., and figuring out how to use those specific to you traits well. And so if you're a man, like, it's likely that you are probably stronger than women and old ladies. So being a good man, you know, would suggest you figure out what your duties and responsibilities are when it comes to that thing about being a man, not just being like, well, we're all just be good. It's fine.
It's so you're right to say as well that this is a commonly rolled out criticism of people that say, men and women, they're more similar than they are different. And you go, well, if you look at some traits on their own, yes, there is tons and tons of overlap in the middle of the distribution. Some of them, like strength, for instance, hand strength, basically they don't touch. That like the weakest man and the strongest woman on average would be like, basically, even they wouldn't be close to each other. But when you actually fold them all together, when you look at the suite of traits overall, when it's not just aggression, but it's also height and it's neuroticism and it's extroversion, it's conscientiousness and it's these things just separate out. And this isn't because of socialization. This is because of innate biological differences. Now, are they perpetuated through culture? Yeah, absolutely. But where do you think the culture came from? Culture wasn't just created out of nothing. It was built off the back of a biological framework. And you're right as well. It is the difference between trying to make men and women equal and trying to make men and women the same. It's aiming for androgyny rather than equality. And that has been a very rapid, slippery slope to say, well, there are no differences. And because men held positions of esteem and advantage for quite a long time, what I think it made was almost like an echo that almost taught women or people that were pro-women that because men had held these positions, the way to get those positions of advantage was for women to emulate the men things that men were doing. Yeah, precisely.
Yeah, I think that's spot on right there. If you ask me, I just think that's spot on, right? And when I say that's spot on, I think that today women are emulating men.
They are. And they're emulating the worst kinds of men at that.
Yeah, I do agree with that. So What you don't, the problem is that you see women so, I don't know, I won't call it penis envy, but I think that women have looked at masculinity as the example of what value is, and they've tried to appropriate it for themselves.
Right.
But in a way that's artificial.
Well, I mean, why go for the cheap knockoff when you can get the real thing, right?
Yeah, so put it this way. I do understand that, like, I don't care about women being in the workplace. I personally don't. Like, I'm not asking for a throwback or a relic of a society where you can go back and, like, okay, women are like, they got to make sandwiches and shit. It's not it. But I mean, there is something unique about womanhood or about femininity that a lot of women aren't even acknowledging as valuable. Like, I mean, even today, like, a woman who would be feminine would, among some circles of women, be considered weak. Right? Or like she's a pick-me, or like she's a mammy, or some shit like that. Like the one, I was watching a TV show earlier today, man. You ever heard of this shit called All the Queen's Men?
Yes, I have heard of it, haven't seen it.
Okay, so I started watching this shit for research purposes. I'm like, because I remember Eva from the America's Next Top Model, okay?
Right.
And, I used to watch the America's Next Top Model because it was just some shit that I did. It's a show I probably would never have watched, but I mean, look, I do have a criminal past. I started watching this shit in jail, okay?
Okay.
And men would like watch the shit because it's got some pretty chicks on it, okay? So we watching this shit in jail, like, okay. So I saw Eve, I think Eva first there, okay? And she's a pretty woman, man. Beautiful ass, dead, gorgeous ass woman, okay? But I mean, the role she plays in this fucking TV show, she's a nigga. She's just like a nigga. She walking around shooting, murdering. I mean, and the worst type of man. Yep. Not the valuable, upright, erudite, dispassionate, a person who knows how to check themselves and kind of promotes the good overall. This is just a cutthroat nigga.
Yep.
And lionized for being that. Right? And look, I'm not saying that there aren't any stories of black men being the same way. I think all the blaxploitation movies were awful and horrible in their portrait of like what a good person is for black folks. Like Goldie is a terrible role model. Okay. Snoop Dogg, emulating pimps and shit like that is bad.
Right.
Okay. But women like emulating the bad caricatures of men, how is that a fucking progress? I don't understand it. And I do like, I understand, like I got two daughters, right? I want them to be able to be the best they can be. You know what I'm saying? Like if they have the aptitude or capacity to do something, then I'm like, okay, go for it, right?
Right.
But come on, man. Like I'm not gonna sit there and lie to my daughter and tell her like you can do everything a man can.
Right.
You're just as good as a man at anything. Like, no, I'm not about to do that, man.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make sense. Yeah. Not to me. Okay. If I had a son, which I don't, and I never will, because I'm not reproducing anymore. Okay. Right. I'll be goddamn if 52, I'm about to go through that shit again. Not happening. No. Yeah. Unless I win, like the fucking lottery and get uber rich or some shit like that.
Yeah.
No, it ain't happening. Or, I somehow blow up like Kevin Samuels or some shit on YouTube. Right. But like beyond that, like, bro, there's no way. But the whole point though is, if I had a son, I wouldn't try to teach him that, like, you can be a woman. You can't be a woman. I mean, that's just me. I mean, there are biological differences between men and women, but we don't even fucking explore it because everything is being reduced to, I think, this whole nurture idea. Like, I mean, the nurture idea that, like, society creates all kinds of personalities and comportments and performances, and that nature has nothing to provide or impart. Or if it does, it's only to a minimal degree. But the most important impact is that of society itself. And I just think that's wrong.
Yeah. This I agree with you. I think that this idea of gender fluidity is kind of wrong-headed. So
And it comes from post-structuralism. It's one of the places or sources from which it comes. Okay, and I don't know how much you know about post-structuralism.
No, I understand that your area, your area of expertise is philosophy. So I'll hand it off to you on that one.
Well, I think structuralism basically says that you, in a rough sense, like I'm not going to go into it. I'm going to try to make it, like Buddy Love style, okay? Like dummy terms, rich dummy terms, okay? So in order to a structuralist would say in order to understand what hot is, you need to understand what cold is.
Right.
If you want to know what large is, you need to know what small is.
Right.
Okay? You want to know what up is, you got to know what down is. That's structuralism, all right? It's based upon binaries. You can't understand one thing without understanding its opposite, okay? Right. Well, post-structuralism is an interrogation of structuralism and the whole idea of there necessarily being binaries by which you can understand one thing apart from another thing. Because oftentimes when you establish binaries, there is an hierarchical relationship between them, which they want to explode, okay? So black and white. Why is it that white has to always, be dominant over black? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or what, men and women. Why is it that men have to always constantly, be over women or something like that? European versus Occidental versus Oriental or something like that, right? So it's always set up. The dichotomies are in such a way that there's a dominant part of the hierarchy and then there's an inferior or a subdominant part of it, right? So they want to kind of do away with that dichotomy so they can get rid of the domination aspects. But I just think that that's quixotic. I just don't think it's possible for you to actually do that. Okay? Not to say that, I'm for dichotomies and hierarchies where there's like blacks, like say, for example, are always going to be in a position of inferiority. I just don't believe in that, okay? But I think that there's ways to get around that other than to deny that there's differences between, the genders. Like, if there's a difference between the human species in any regard, I think you can basically say that there's going to be differences predicated upon their sexual differences as opposed to their skin color differences.
Right. Right.
Now, I mean, to some people today, like that's like saying some sinful shit. And I'm not saying it to say that, like women are less valuable than men. They just have a different kind of value predicated upon their characteristics and qualities.
Right.
Not saying like these bitches ain't shit because, they're not men. Like that's not how I view this.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But I think that the lionization of masculinity and what men have done and what they can do, I think it's been distorted. You know what I mean? They love men too damn much. I mean, they tried to appropriate masculinity for themselves.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. And not doing a very good job of it at that.
Man, how can they when they're not really men?
Exactly.
And they're not really masculine.
Yeah.
That's just like a rough, tough ass black woman, which you see a lot of masculine performances of masculinity among black women. That's the problem that black men have. That's my problem with black women anyway. Stop trying to be tough, man. Stop trying to act like you a dude, man. You're not one of us, man.
Yeah. I don't know what the appeal of of that Queen, All the Queen's Men show is, because just looking at the premise of it, I had zero interest. I don't want to see that. I just don't.
It was just naked. It's about stripper dudes and shit. You know what I'm saying? And a woman that's kind of running the whole racket.
So a de facto matter of sorts.
Exactly. But I will say this. There are historical instances in which there have been real world fucking black madams. Okay?
Sure. Yeah.
So there are some rough and tough ass black women out here, man.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like Harriet Tubman was a rough and tough ass black woman, dog.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's some rough and tough ass black women out here.
Right.
But they got to get it how they live. I mean, like, I'm not going to, like, just... Eva's not one of them, okay? not taking shit away from her, you know what I'm saying? But, like, she's just not one of them, okay?
Yeah.
Like, I think, like, who was it? I think James Brown, one of his mothers or aunties or something was like a madam or some shit.
Yeah.
You know? And they'll cut your ass. Like, women will kill you. Women can murder and kill just like a man can.
Of course.
And we'll do it. I mean, like, we'll do it.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, God damn. I mean, I just think all of these problems, and we can land the plane. I'm gonna let you get the last words before we close it out. But like, I think largely many of the problems that we see today is because, especially with gender, sexuality, and the like, man, I think this is all because we couldn't deal with the racial issue. And so we had to deal with everything but the racial issue. And this is just like the way to do it.
Yeah. I mean, really comes down to is it comes down as far as black men are concerned, it comes down to, is our society prepared to accept a wholesale empowerment of black men? And I think we have the answer. I think we've always known the answer. The answer is no. So,
but we got to speak up for ourselves. We got to say, what we think, what we feel. We have to develop, a dialogue or a community of persons who are engaged in dialogue, who are trying to construct like what is best for ourselves. And I fall short of it quite often. I engage in behavior in this space sometimes that I shouldn't or whatever. But I think for the most part, I'm in good faith. I'm trying to do the best I can to move the space forward. Some people disagree. That's fine. But
that's all any of us can do is put our best foot forward. And I want to thank you, Green Gorilla, for taking the time out of your Short Bus Saturday show to dive into this. To be continued. We'll take it over to my channel. Maybe we can do this next Saturday over at my place, and we can dive into, pick up where we left off in this conversation with this interview, because I do think it is important. And I thank you for leading off the opening salvo with regard to Ms. Christine Elmer, and looking forward to continuing it over at my place.
Hey, man, shout out to you, bro. Appreciate you coming. This is the first time we've ever collaborated. Thank you for...
It will not be the last, that's for sure. Thank you so much, and keep up the great work.
Hey, man, thank you, sir. Appreciate you, bro.
Peace.
All right, peace. Well, so that is going to do it for today's show, man. Shout out to... Shout out to Rush Beggy. Appreciate you, man. He says, damn, the G with the PhD in MOA. Sorry, I missed this collab. Hey, man, catch it on the replay, my guy. Shout out to you, though, man. I got to give you, every time I get a 50 piece, I got to give some fanfare. Hey, Shepherd Tracer, I'm sorry, man. They do go a little bit long sometimes, man. But, hey, we doing what we doing, man. He says, despite my earlier comment, I got much love for this channel and the other issues discussed. Much love to you, GG and Obsidian. Shout out to you, too. Sorry I snap. Sometimes I go a little overboard in my reactions. So shout out to you, sir. Appreciate your donation. But anyway, man, I'm about to go eat. Thank you for everyone who contributed and donated and supported the show for today. And I hope all of y'all have a pleasant afternoon, man. And I'll catch y'all on the next one, man. Peace and hair grease, man. Holler at y'all next time.